Greetings and salutations, friends. Hello, hello. It is I, Trooper SJP, and this is the Academic Foxhole. And how are you all doing? I hope you're doing well. You know what? I feel like my audio's being weird. Oh, I think I might know why. Hold on. That's what it was. I couldn't hear it, but now I can. But speaking of hearing things, I need to turn this down a little bit. Let me turn that down for you as well. Here. Let's put you here. Let's put you there for the moment. Good morning, PH. You said something in my chat, but I didn't get to read it. We were talking about the Genesis dice. What? Maybe you didn't actually respond yet. Hold on. Let me see. So, hi. So PH. By the way, I'm playing Outer Worlds today. We're doing the DLC Murder on Eridos, but also I'm gonna play the banjo, but I'm gonna play the banjo first, not last. I'm only gonna play one song. I'm gonna play No Glory in the West, which is the practice song I had last week. So I'm gonna do that this week. And I haven't had a chance to work on another practice song because it's been kind of busy. So I'm just gonna play that one, and I'm gonna do that first rather than last because that's how I feel. But PH and I were talking in the Discord, which, by the way, we have a Discord, about the Genesis system, where I was in so most of my life, people talk about Genesis life, there's been one consistent, as everyone's like, oh, I love Genesis, it's so great, because Genesis is the best game ever, because it gives you narrative possibilities with dice, because you have both like positives and negatives that are independent of whether or not you succeed or fail in the roll. It's like a dice pool system, but you have like positives and negatives. And I know this system itself from Fantasy Flight Games board games and things like that. So like you roll positive dice and negative dice, and then you've got like advantage dice and disadvantage dice, is my understanding. Roll them all together, roll. And so you could succeed at a roll, but then get disadvantages. So like basically bad things happen to you even though you succeed, or good things could happen to you even though you fail, or mixes of both, like things like this, right? Hey, Mrs. Barentor, hello. Well, thank you for being here, Mrs. Barentor. I haven't seen you in a while. It's so nice to see you. And so everybody who's hyped, everybody up until this moment who's hyped Genesis has always hyped it because you have more possibilities for storytelling with their dice than any other game, which I doubt is true. I'm sort of interested in the Genesis system, but I still doubt that's true. I feel like that is a bit of an overstatement. I feel like there are games that have partial successes. Like there are options. Anyhow, but generally speaking, I was always interested in Genesis because I'd heard people had been hyping up the dice system. Oh, well then I will turn it down, Rissa. Thank you. Hey, the Grinning Moon. No, Genesis is not a D20 system. Hey, the Grinning Moon. It isn't. I've been here some without logging in, like I used just as Mrs. Baird. Well, it's nice to have you here, one way or the other. Genesis is not a D20 system. It uses my understanding is that it uses the range of polyhedrals like D&D, but they've got custom dice. Actually, hold on, I can show you. One moment. I have my things. Oh, hold on. Give me a second. Give me a second, wait. I'm back. This time I'm dangerous. No, wait, here. So, hey, you know what? I'm going to find reasons to wear a yellow top hat. It might just be in my life where I get to walk around. So these are the Genesis dice. And it has, Genesis was made by Fantasy Flight Games, and you might know them from Descent Descent, Journeys into the Dark. Also, they're Star Wars, kind of like miniature games, you know? So then they came out with an RPG system. They came out with a Star Wars RPG called Edge of Empire. They had like 3 different versions of it. And they then made that a generic system, which they put out like books for cyberpunk, fantasy. And so you have like dice. And PH will be able to give me more details because I have not read the rules yet, even though I have them. So it looks like, yeah, so they did like, they also, Fantasy Flight Games, I know them for like their board games and card games. Like you might know them for their living card games, which are like Magic, but rather than random, you just know what's in the pack. So they did like Game of Thrones. They did sort of competitive LCGs like Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Netrunner, Android Netrunner. Had a bunch of different card games like that. And they do some cooperative card games. Their biggest one right now that's still running is Arkham Horror, which is real fun. They do board games like Mansions of Madness, Descent Journeys into the Dark, Star Wars Alliance. Do they? I don't think they do Twilight Imperium, but they might actually do Twilight Imperium. Like they just do a bunch of. They also do Elder Sign, Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror. They do a bunch of like Cthulhu sort of board games. Yeah, and so, but they were making one of their games that was like a board game that used this sort of concept of positive and negative dice that could do different things, and then they made an RPG system out of it. And so again, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to look at this based solely on what I know in terms of playing these other games. So looking at this red one, if you notice with this red one, they've got like, this has like 2 X's on it. An X. This kind of reminds me of Descent, Journeys into the Dark, where you would have like damage dice and hit dice. Like in Descent, which is a board game, not an RPG, like you'd roll your 2 hit dice and your damage dice, and you'd get a number of hits, right, or damage, and then like the other person would roll like their defense dice, and you would compare shields to X's, right? So this has got like an X on it, and like two X's, an X into this. Now I don't know what this dice is, but I could imagine it could be for hits or for damage, although it's red. This has got some other, like this up looks like a positive thing is what it looks like to me. The X's are failures. Oh, thank you. That's a bad dice, the biggest one. So this one is Arkham Horror. Yes. So thank you, PH. So this is like your bad die. So the X's are failures. The other kind is threat. The third symbol found on that die is the disaster. So it looks like miss. It looks like that would be there is a that looks like threat, and this looks like disaster is what it looks like, right? I like that they got away from numeric dice. It's an interesting take on an old concept. And then this one looks like, and there are 2 of those, and so then this one looks like your positive die. So I would say, let's guess that that is a hit. You could like, ooh. And that this up is like an advantage, let's say, probably, right? Or maybe not threat, but some other kind of positive term that's like advantage. And this must be like miracle or super positive, right? I don't know what the word is for super advantage. And then you've got these D8s, and this D8 looks like the less big negative die, right? 'Cause it's got the same symbols on it. And this looks like the less big positive die, which has a couple of blank spots on it. Triumph. And then you've got the D6 size, and this looks like your positive D6, and this looks like your negative D6. So I imagine what happens is that when you're playing this game, depending on I imagine this is, I'm guessing, but this is how I imagine these sorts of things work, is that you compare your skill, like you might have like a, I don't know, a D6 in a skill, or a D8 in a skill, or a D12 in a skill, probably. And then you might have to, like, depending on circumstances, like, oh, if maybe it's a really bad circumstance, you roll like the D12 bad one. Like imagine like that's like you sort of assemble your dice pool based on probably your skills, attributes, and circumstances, something like this. hey, Furious, and then you roll them, and then you compare to see what happens. So I'm gonna just say, for example, I don't know, we're making this up. Let's say I have a really good positive, and let's say I've got a D8 negative. Let's guess. Let's guess. Wait. So Grinning Moon says, so instead of having a number scale with abstract values, you have more conceptual actions attempted attached to each die. Am I understand that right? I think so. Let's see. PH, what do you say? The D6s you get through circumstances, the D8s are your basic abilities and obstacles, the D12 you get through expertise. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to give myself a D8 positive, right? Because this is my skill. Let's say that we have some, let's say we're note, I have never read the rules yet. I've read about the rules, but PH has played it, so we're just sort of guessing. So let's say I've got a skill. Let's say we're trying to, PH gave the example that we're going to try to defuse a bomb. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to defuse a bomb. Because PH was trying to defuse a bomb. And so this is my demolition skill, right? Let's say that, tell me, PH, tell me if this is right, because we're guessing here, or I'm guessing. Let's say this is my skill, represents my skill. You say the D6s, I got blown up when I tried, I rolled a disaster. Oh, okay. So the D6s you get through circumstances. So let's say I've got state-of-the-art demolitions equipment, like I've got special high-tech gear, which will give me a positive. But let's say that we don't have a lot of time because the bad guys are trying to, like, we're sort of like we're rushed, right? Because the bad guys are chasing us down, so we get a negative. And tell me about the expertise. Tell me about the expertise. When do we get expertise dice? This is what I gotta know. But I feel like we don't have we don't have any like extra special obstacles other than the fact that we've got like some rushing. Bombs are tricky. Was one victim of a TPK because the GM miscalculated how much damage the bad guy's suitcase bomb would do. You get expertise from training and demolitions. Okay, so let's say I'm not trained in demolitions, right? I'm not trained in demolitions, but but I have good equipment. And the D8's your basic difficulty. So does that mean that I would put in a negative D8 to represent my basic difficulty? Is that correct? Is that how that works? Okay, so basic difficulty. Oh, question. If it were easier, would I put in would I just put in a D6, or if it were harder, would I put in a D12? Is that how that works? We're gonna roll it and see what happens. Okay. I rolled on my positive D6 for my circumstance a blank. On my which is like for the good equipment. The more D8s, the more difficult. Ah, I see. What's an average difficulty? Is an average difficulty 2? An easy difficulty 1? Really hard difficulty 3? So on the circumstances that I'm being rushed, I got a fail. On my dice representing that I know how to do demolitions, I got a success. So that's currently equal. And then oh wait, that's not is that a success? Yeah, that's a success. And then on the difficulty, I got 2 fails, which means total I have 2 fails, which is probably bad, right? 2 to 3 is normal. Okay, 2 to 3 is normal. All right. Is this the same with your, by the way, is this the same with your skills, that you could have like a 1 die in demolitions, or a 2 die in demolitions, or a 3 die in demolitions? Is that also the case, that you can have that like your rating and your skill is based is how many D8s you have? Is that the case? This will be my question on that one, because that sounds like it would probably make sense. So it looks like I failed to defuse this bomb because I rolled more failures than I did successes. Let us say, I think that PH is going to tell us that we get more than one. We can get more dice based on our skill levels. Yes, your int would give you 2 to 3 D. Okay, your int would give you 2 to 3 D8s, and then training turns those D8s into D12s. Okay, so we're gonna roll this again. I know that we're gonna do other things, but right now we're learning things about Genesis. So let's say I have 2 D8s in demolition, but the difficulty is 2, which is an average difficulty. I'm not trained in it, but I've got good equipment, but we're also being rushed. So now I'm going to roll all of these dice and see what we get. Like, I'm not an expert. Like, I know it, but I'm not an expert. All right, what do we get here? In our new roll, for being rushed, no effect. For having good equipment, no effect. Well, this is interesting. Okay, all right. So now, PH is going to tell us how as a GM, he would interpret the situation that we have. So for our negative dice, we rolled 2 failures. Two failures and a disadvantage, like a negative circumstance. When do we get expertise dice? Says the GM who last week had Little Red Dot just decode a Morse message while the Vichy police circled his area in a vehicle with a locator equipment. Yeah, but there's like no expertise dice there. I mean, all right, so we get two failures and a negative on the bad ones. And then on the good ones, we have 1 success and 2 advantages. So we have 2 negatives, 2 fails, 1 success, which means it looks like we failed the roll. And then we have 2 advantages and 1 disadvantage. So PH, as a GM, what does that mean? Oh, so the good cancels out the bad. So we have a total of 1 fail and 1 advantage. Okay. Oh, thank you. So PH, as a GM, how do you, like, we're defusing the bomb, right? We're in the warehouse. We're trying to defuse the bomb. We've got bad guys on the outside, right? How do you interpret the 1 failure, 1 advantage in this dice system? Does that mean something like you didn't defuse the bomb, but you get more time? Would that be your advantage? Or you learn when you're in the guts of the bomb, you see the manufacturer's mark, so you can, or you like figure out who made the bomb, or how would you do that? Grinning Moon says, interesting. I like the idea of the system because I have dyslexia and I get my numbers mixed up. Having symbols seems like it helps make the situation more dynamic without extra math. So you do not disarm the bomb, but it doesn't blow up, and you have a good idea what to do next. Ah, okay. Does that advantage give you an extra die on the next roll? Because that would be, right? That would be interesting. Let me know. So that's oh, you would lower the difficulty. Oh, okay. Or give another blue. Okay. Cool. So this is these are the Genesis dice, and that's part of the Genesis system, which I have not GM'd yet, but I did get because it was, it's like it's got this new dice system. It's sort of interesting. There's a Grinning Moon. There's another game that uses symbols rather than numbers, and that is Weave. And Weave is connected to an app, so it's like an app-based game. Or like you use the app for like your character sheet and like your storybooks, and then you roll dice that have little symbols on them. I think they have like 4 symbols, like fire, earth, air, water, something like that. And that has an impact. Hello, Anarch Dovey. So one of the things that we were talking about is that everybody that I had talked to about Genesis who were very hyped for it were like, oh, we really love the fact that you can get advantage or disadvantage, and that like, these things can happen. But then I was on this other forum. By the way, I'm going to pull up my banjo while we're talking. And this person was saying, well, it was like a whole thing where the question was, we had mentioned Fate, and then I said something about Fate, and they said, oh, you run Fate, so how do you deal with the fact that Fate? I am not going to use my finger pick. How do you deal with the fact that Fate is so constrained? I said, well, I can't answer that question because I don't know what you mean by constrained. Like, what do you mean by constrained? And this person said, oh, I mean that there's only a +4 or a -4, and there's a bell curve. And so like all of your like, your outcomes are so constrained. And I was like, oh, and he's like, because like I really like the Genesis system because it doesn't have a bell curve. It's really, really swingy. And I like really swingy games, and because really swingy games are more exciting. And bell curve distribution games are boring, basically, is what he said. And I was like, okay, well, I don't find fate constrained, but it does have a bell curve distribution system. So if you do not like bell curve distribution systems, that might be a problem for you. And then, but he had a lot of questions about fate in general, and also how that manifests in Kolos, which made me, based on, well, not having watched more than like an hour or two of Kolos, because he's like, yeah, I mean, I suppose it doesn't matter in your game because you never roll. And I was like, oh, that's not true. We actually do roll in Kolos, but he's like, he says, oh, but because he was talking about Kolos, but he was really talking about fate, or his perceptions of fate, which he's not really actually played very much, because he had these ideas about how fate works. But I was like, oh yeah, I don't actually think it works that way. Not necessarily. I mean, it does work in the sense that there is a bell curve distribution. If you don't like bell curves, you're not going to like bell curves. That's true. But he also thought that basically he was like, oh, he's like, it seems to me in your game aspects matter, but mechanics don't matter. And I was like, well, because we don't ever roll. And I was like, yeah, but aspects are part of the mechanics actually. So that's a little weird, right? Because it's like they are mechanical. He's like, well, what I mean is that it matters that you were a former soldier aspect more so than like getting a +2 to a skill roll, because you don't roll for skills. And I was like, well, we do, but those things are all interconnected, right? And so like his issue was, I'm getting distracted, but his issue is that he's like, well, because in Fate, because everything has to be in a pyramid, everyone's going to end up having the same skills, right? Everyone's going to look the same. And I was like, yeah, well, that's also not true. Everybody's very different looking. And also, I was like, also, I think that you have to understand that in Fate, your skill is more than just your skill. Your skill is the combination of skills, stunts, and aspects. All of those together sort of basically define what you're good at and help distinguish you. Somebody with a shoot 4, but a stunt that says they are able to, they're really good at shooting. They get a bonus at shooting when there are multiple enemies around them. That's to attack, is going to be very different from somebody who has shoot but a stunt that says you get a +2 to create aspects, or like a stunt that says like if you you can place a free, like a disarm shot, like that you can get a bonus to create advantage to disarm somebody, put a disarmed advantage on someone or whatever. Like those are like trick shot, right? Those are totally different kinds of people that have very different sort of styles. So anyway, this person I think just in general didn't quite understand how how fate works, and yeah. So that was a thing. Anyway, but part of the thing that was interesting is that they were like, I love Genesis because it's super swingy, and I hate bell curves. And I was like, okay, well, you don't have to like bell curves. It's cool for you to not like things. I honor that. But I'd never heard people talk about Genesis as a super swingy system before. I'd only heard them talk about it as a narrative system. So so that was like a new thing for me. No. I'm doing banjo at the front. Hello, Actor. So a lot of the additional rules in the game give you ways to use extra success or advantage. Oh, interesting. I disagree with that person's take on both Fate and Genesis, but if he's happy, more power to him. Yeah. Anarchy says aspects are the mechanics. I know, like they're part of the mechanics. It's very odd. Aspects do matter a lot in Coalesce, maybe more in the standard Fate game. I don't think that's true, because and Crone's like, Fate's got more than enough skills for variation. Yeah. Even if everyone's got +1 alertness, that's hardly defining. Definitely. And also, yeah, like yes, absolutely. Greenman says, when you say bell curve distribution, I'm unsure what you're referring to. Is that referring to leveling? Oh, this is actually really important. Very important, Greenman. Have you set the end expectation of Banjo at the end? Are you planning to play now? I am. I mentioned that at the top of the stream, Rissa, that I was going to play the banjo at the top. So swinging is when there's more than, so okay, so here's the difference between, when you're talking about distribution, we're talking about bell curve versus flat probability. And what that means is how likely is it that you're going to get a given outcome a given outcome on the die roll. So, for example, in uh, Dungeons and Dragons, when you roll a d20, you roll one dice, and so you have an equal chance of getting any number on the dice. So you have a 5% chance of getting a 1, you have a 5% chance of getting a 20, you have a 5% chance of getting 17. You have an equal chance of getting any given number because there's only one die, right? If you have, so that's what we call a flat distribution curve. It's like a flat curve, right? So you have an equal chance of getting any number because you have one die and they have a certain number of sides. Now, a bell curve means that you have more dice, right? So in D&D, you roll 3d6. Well, now you roll 4d6, but back in the day, you'd roll 3d6 to roll your stats. And you have a 50% chance of rolling a 10 on 3d6 because you can roll a 10 with a 2-2-6 or a 1-3-6, or like if you look at all the different combinations of the number of dice you have, like if you said, okay, these are the 3 dice, you can roll 1-1-1, 1-1-2, 1-1-3, 1-1-4, 1-1-5, 1-1-6, 1-2-1, 1-2, like 1-3-1. If you go through all the combinations of the dice that you can roll, 50% of the time you're going to roll a 10. And your greatsword does bell curve damage, great axe is not. And you're going to, it's like you've got like but you've got only like a 1% chance, a 1.2% chance of rolling a 3 or an 18. So when you have a bell curve, you're the more dice you have in that bell curve, the more likely you're going to sit in the middle, right? So well, might be a little bit higher. Like I think that like on 3d6, your average roll is going to be a 10, but on 46, I believe your average roll is going to be a 12. So when D&D went from 3d6 for your stats to 46, it basically upped the power level for players for your stats is what they did. But in the end, right? So what this means is that with a bell curve, you're more likely to get, what you're going to get more likely, right? So just like as PH said, 2d6 is more likely, you're more likely to get a 7. With a 1d12, could be anything. So why would you want a bell curve in your game versus why would you want a flat probability curve in your game? And Fusion actually described why you would want one versus the other in a really interesting way. And they said, well, with bell curve, you're going to be more consistent. You're more likely to roll right in the middle, which means you're less likely to roll a critical failure or a critical success, right? You're more likely, it's more consistent. You have a better sense of what you're going to get most of the time. You'll still get some outliers, but like, you're going to, it's a bell curve, right? So you're going to tend towards that middle, which is more consistent, which some people enjoy, but some people really want it to be more random. Like they want like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, oh, well, am I going to roll 20? I'm going to roll a 7? What am I going to roll? Who knows? So some people feel like a flat probability curve is more exciting, and the swingier it is, the more exciting it is, and that like you don't know. Gotcha. So then what does the term swingy mean? Swingy means it's more flat because you can swing wildly right from one end to the other. Yeah, see, PH just said it. Yes. Now, so the person I was talking to likes swingy systems, and that is why he likes Genesis. He said, right? He's like, oh, I like Genesis because it's swingy, right? And I was like, okay, I'd never heard that about Genesis before, so I don't know if that's true. I mean, it could be true. I don't know because I've never G A flat A sharp because I'd never heard him even talk about Genesis that way. So, and it wasn't my impression that it was a particularly swingy game, but what do I know? D E F. When I put my capo on, it pulls me just a little bit out of tune. There you go. Swingy can make character feel like incompetent for those who like bell curves, or super powerful. Fusion said that the Fusion rule set said use a flat probability, because in Fusion they give you the opportunity of either doing flat or doing bell curve. And they said, you know, use flat probability curve when you want it to be uncertain, right? Like when things are uncertain and you don't know the outcome, then use a flat probability curve. Like, give me a second. Oh, too flat. Okay. B, C, D flat D. What in the heck, anyway? Kind of guess. Did you see Trooper SJC TCM are to produce a documentary on the hunt for Orson Welles' director's cut of The Magnificent Ambersons in Brazil, to where Welles went shortly after the U.S. declared war in 41, which made me think of an ongoing RPG campaign to assist U.S. diplomat. Oh, that's really interesting. Ooh, time of gifts. That's interesting. Ooh. So I don't actually know if Genesis is super swingy, because I actually don't know what his probabilities are. It does not seem like it is because there's multiple dice, but I actually don't know. Did you use this tuning thing that you clip? No, I did not. Because look, see, there's not one right there. There is. I'm just using a regular tuner. Okay, I'm gonna play No Glory in the West because that's the one that's the one for this week. I don't know what it's gonna be for next week, and I haven't decided. You know, I'm deciding what's gonna happen next week. It's unclear to me. But let's here's the intro, here's the first chorus, here's the verse. Ooh, I'm gonna have to open up this a little bit because I need more space. And then I can play it for you. And then we're gonna, you know, play the Outer Worlds because we're gonna do it. Whoop. All right. And this will get me, what will this get me? This will get me verse, chorus, verse. And this, so then I can move this to chorus, verse 3. And then I'll have the entire song at my fingertips. Do you use the tuning thing? Do you use this tuning thing? I have done in the past, but they often break pretty often. So I haven't done one in a while. Also, those usually give you a little bit, like, you know, I have done. Depends on your instruments. I've had one before. I've had a tuning fork up there, but I generally need one that I have to like watch out because some tuners. This is a pretty good one. I've had this one forever. Because it has a metronome involved as well, so that's cool. So it's both a tuner and a metronome, which is nice. But this also lets me caliber my pitch. It also gets me any notes because like some tuners are made just for guitars, and then I cannot use it. Then it's not that useful for me, right? It's not interesting. But I've used the ones on top. I've used them. They're fine. Genesis feels sweet because the results are very different one roll to the next. Sometimes you have massive amounts of advantage. Sometimes you get a triumph. Sometimes there are lots of threat results. Oh, so yeah, but I imagine they actually, I mean, I feel like I saw a chart somewhere that gave the probabilities for Genesis, and I don't think that they were flat. I think they weren't flat, but you know. So let me see. Wait, yeah. Yeah, so anyway, I thought that was interesting, but also I think that this person didn't really understand. I'm not gonna think about that right now. They say Paris is dead. Lived through London and drank through Memphis. Things you live by would once just a guess, and there ain't no glory. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. No, that's not right. That's not right. It's not right. That's not right, everybody. Excuse me. It's like, this doesn't feel right. This feels wrong. And it is wrong because this is capoed on the 4th fret, not the 3rd fret. I was like, this feels wrong. I gotta start again. I was on the wrong capo. I'm sorry. I was like, no, this feels weird. Like that's not ringing right. Would you recommend a clip-on for the ukulele, or what should I go after? I would just go for a regular tuner. Then you don't have to worry about it. And then also learn how to tune it by ear. Anarctive says, I'm thinking about that game, and I might have an idea what game is about. I'm thinking that the players play lost characters and are trying to discover themselves, who they are. Over the course of the campaign, they discover something about themselves or form new identities. Just make sure you get player buy-in. Say, hey, I want you to play people who don't know who you are. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then discuss how you want to figure out how to develop those characters, if you want them to decide it as players, or if you as a GM want to decide it. The wrong what? Yes, I was capable. So if you're gonna play an instrument, you should know that this here is a fret, right? So the little metal bars that go across the neck of your instrument are called frets, and not all instruments have frets. Early banjos did not have frets. If you go to early banjos, they are fretless. Violins don't have frets. Cellos don't have frets. Violas don't have frets. Basses don't have frets. Right? But this is a fretted instrument. So if I'm playing the banjo, a fretted banjo, and I want to depress, so this is a, no, I want to depress the 12th fret here. This will make this sound like a D. If there are no frets, I just have to know. I'd have to press here, and I'd have to know this is the place to press. Like you do in a violin, you just kind of learn where you're supposed to press your fingers, but there are no frets to tell you where to go. Which means you can get, in a fretless instrument, like their fretless basses, fretless banjos, you can get microtones. Like this is a D. This is a D flat. If I wanted to get in between a D flat and a D, I can't. Well, I can't on the banjo in this way because this is fretted. So there's like, if there are no frets, I could be like, this is a D, this is a D flat, this is right in the middle if I want a microtone like in Arabic music. But I can't do that. I can do it by bending the string. If you push the string, like, that's like about halfway in between those two notes, but I have to do it by bending, right? So these are the frets. When people say don't fret, they're talking about their instruments. Do frets not make it easier to find the notes? Yeah, it's a blue note, Mrs. Barentor. It's just different. I mean, it's different practice. If you're on a violin, you have to practice putting your fingers on the right spot on the fretboard. But you can do different things. Like if I'm on a stringed instrument, if I'm on a fretless instrument, like if here, so if I'm on a violin and I want to get a tremolo, which is where it's like a vibrato. I want to get a vibrato on the string, right? If I'm on a stringed instrument, if I'm on a violin, I used to play violin as a little kid, not very long. I can put my finger here, play it, and then do this. And if I do this on a violin, the tone will go because there are no frets, right? So I can get more expressiveness on a fretless instrument because I can go in between notes a little bit more easily. Also, if I'm going to slide, like here on a banjo, I can slide, but it'll be a little bit smoother if there are no frets. So if you have no frets, there are things that you can do that you can't do if you have frets. But if you have frets, right, it's just a little bit different. Fretless are good for microtones. Yep, which are the notes in between the 12 standard notes. Indeed. playing viola, I had tape where I was supposed to put my fingers. Yeah, and when you're like learning a fretless instrument, you will often have tape to like so you can practice, and then once you know where it is, then you get rid of the tape. Fretless banjos. So I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if I can show you. So this is my banjo neck. Oh, I can't get closer. Let's see if we can. And if you notice, there are dots on the neck that I can see that you can't see, but I can see them. This dot here is for the 7th fret. This one's for the 10th, the 12th, 15th, pretty sure. And so when I'm looking down on my instrument, I can see first, third, 5th, 7th, 10th, 12th, 15, 17, 19, 21. So I know where my frets are just by looking at these dots. And so if I had a fretless banjo, they would still have the dots there. So I'd know, oh, this is where my 5th is, this is where my 7th is, et cetera, et cetera. Although to be honest, fretless banjos are pretty early, and people didn't like back then. They didn't really play up the neck very much. They tended to play down here more. Slides on a fretless sound really great. Yes, they do, because you get all the tones in between the notes where a fret holds it. Yes. So like you get, and also you can, this fixes you into one sound. Like a C is always gonna be the same C on this, unless you like retune everything. But with a fretless, you can actually play microtones, change where your C is. You can do a lot of difference there. I suppose when I was 8, I suppose I was 8, yeah. You have a guitar, oh, Gritting Moon, nice. And the thing is, it doesn't mean that guitars are bad, because you can buy fretless guitars, right? Like you can buy a fretless guitar, you can certainly buy a fretless bass. They're just different sounds. And sometimes you want that sound of an instrument with frets. Sometimes you want a sound with an instrument without frets. They're just different. Stupid question. Do you put your fingers on the metal, on the wood in between? You put it on the wood in between. If I put my finger, so this is a, if I put it right on, it's going to sound muddy. You want it between the two. You can get a little closer if you want it. But if you put it on, it's not going to sound right. It's going to be muddied. Then it won't sound good. Yeah. They say Paris is dead. Lived through London and drank through Memphis. Things you live by were once just a guess, and there ain't no glory in the West. No, there ain't no glory in the West. Hard to think on your feet. Tired of begging them just to compete. True to win can feel so bittersweet, but you take what you can get, 'cause there ain't no glory in the West. Blazing on ahead. Pardon me, I haven't cut my fingernails. Burning through it. Coming round the bend. Nowhere left to go, going's all we know. Riding past the best, and there's still no rest. And there's still no rest. There ain't no glory in the West. What's a boy to do? Hit the road with $1 or $2. haunted by what he knows he can't do. Gets it off his chest. 'Cause there ain't no glory in the West. Burning on ahead, blazing through it, running blind again. Nowhere left to go, going's all we know. Riding past the best, and there's still no rest. And there's still no rest. There's still no rest. There ain't no glory in the West. Count your blessings, they say. And after each midnight begins a new day. But don't place your bets on a word that they say. They'll put your life to rest. 'Cause there ain't no glory left. No, there ain't no glory left. There ain't no glory in the West. Woo! Thanks, everybody. Lizard eats flies. Lizard eats flies. How are you doing? Anyway, I'm working through that one. I might play that one again next week. I don't know yet, but we'll see how I feel about it. We'll see how I feel about it. I don't know. We'll see. Lizard eats flies. Lizard eats flies composed the theme song for our for City of Light and Shadow, because that's like amazing. Let's see what do we got here. Lizard eats flies. Welcome in. Hey Prax, how are you? Oh, Banjo. Banjo is like, see, if Banjo Trooper's the sexiest trooper, it's only because the banjo is the sexiest instrument. Like that's like actually the only reason why that would be a true statement. And then it would not be me. It would be the banjo. Is all I'm saying. That's all. Sexiness is a transitive property, and it lives in the banjo. Is what I'm trying to say. Oh, PH, you're a snack without the banjo. Look. The banjo has 2 G strings, so I feel like it's the banjo. Is what I'm trying to tell you, because 2 G strings. That's just like a true statement. Like, saxophone may be the saxiest. That is probably true. That is probably true. I was that feels good to me. Oh, the hurdy-gurdy is such a sexy instrument. You know, there's so many super sexy instruments that we don't even talk about anymore. Yep. Yep. Okay. You got to lurk. Oh, but thank you, Grinning Moon. We're gonna start the Outer Worlds like right about now in like 4 seconds, maybe. Trooper threw me a curveball with it. I had an idea, and then I chatted with Trooper, and he was like, maybe accordion. And I'm like, well, there goes my idea. Well, because I was just kind of thinking about like the smoky cabaret with like the French accordion. You know, I'm like, but I mean, Lizard Eats Flies are just. So I'm gonna play a song that I actually haven't practiced, just because I feel like I should do 2 songs. Sack butts are kind of sexy too. So again, I've not actually played this in practice, but we're gonna just see. And I don't remember even how it goes, but we're gonna see how it goes. I think this is probably a lot slower. I'll be your dream, I'll be your wish, I'll be your fantasy. I'll be your hope, I'll be your love, be everything that you need. I'll be your love, I love you more with every breath, truly, madly, deeply do. I will be strong, I will be faithful, cause I'm counting on a new beginning. It's so high. A reason for living, a deeper meaning, yeah. I want to stand with you on a mountain. I wanna bathe with you in the sea. I wanna lay like this forever until the sky falls down on me. Yeah, Savage Garden was like super high. I was like, hello, now hold on a second here. Wait a minute. Is what real, Ice Bunny? Is what real? For those who don't know, the hurdy-gurdy is a weird string instrument, medieval in origin, that has a crank and a wheel and is a kind of a stringy bagpiping sound. It's a drum. Yeah, bagpipes are sack, but hurdy-gurdies are so cool. Hurdy-girdles are so cool. No, the sackbut is an actual instrument. It is the precursor of the trombone. Yeah, the hurdy-gurdy is legit real, super cool, and as Nephilim says, the sackbut is the ancestor of the trombone. Um, and when the stars are shining brightly in the velvet sky, I'll make a wish, send it to heaven, then make you wanna cry. The tears of joys for all the pleasure and the certainty that we're surrounded by the comfort and protection of the highest power. In lonely hours, the tears devour you. I wanna stand with you on a mountain. I wanna bathe with you in the sea. I wanna lay like this forever until the sky falls down on me. Bridge, which I don't remember how it goes. Oh, can't you see it, baby? You don't have to close your eyes, 'cause it's standing right before you. All that you need will surely come. I'll be your dream, I'll be your wish, I'll be your fantasy. I'll be your hope, I'll be your love, I'll be everything that you need. I'll love you more with every breath, truly, madly, deeply do. Oh, this is that little, they just go straight to the chorus. I deeply do. Oh. I want to stand with you on a mountain. I wanna bathe with you by the sea. I wanna lay like this forever until the sky falls down on me. Anyway, that's the next one I'm working on. Yeah. Let's see. What did I miss here? What did I miss here? Bolus, dude. We know there is smooth jazz, but is there rough? Oh, there's all sorts of rough. Oh, so many rough jazzes. Blizzard slides bebop. I feel like we could go rougher. If you like the hurdy-gurdy, I may recommend Vox Nostra on RTE, which is Irish Lyric FM, whose presenter Vlad Shmishkoven is a fan. Ooh. Hurdy-gurdy is English for drelgier, and I know what a drelgier is. They are cool. You're gonna be making leaf steak and fries. No, I want anarchy. Now I want leaf steak and fries. Bebop was actually a reaction to the kind of swing dance music that was popular. Musicians wanted to create something that was undanceable and more of a musician's art. Yeah, because this is really, it's about like minstrelsy. In many ways, it's like the legacy of blackface minstrelsy. I haven't learned song 2 yet. I'm gonna have to go and like find the chords, learn it. There was I think it was it? I don't think it was Miles Davis. It was probably like Charlie Parker, who said with bebop, they said we wanted to make music that white people couldn't steal, but of course white people stole it anyway. But like part of the idea was that they were like making this music that was going to be so fast, so difficult, so angular, that white people just couldn't steal it like they stole everything else. And then white people stole bebop hardcore, and now you learn bebop in music conservatories. Like if you want to learn jazz in a conservatory, you're going to learn bebop, and it's like so it was like super appropriated. But like the original idea was to sort of make music that would not be appropriated, that couldn't be appropriated because it'd be too difficult, and would not be like blackface minstrelsy and clownishness because like it wouldn't be danceable, it wouldn't be fun, it would be like really like intellectual. And of course, bebop's being invented in like 1941, 42. So we're dealing with like really intense racism and demeaningness and sort of the idea that like there's like a whole idea that there's like a lot of there are a lot of really racist ideas, and one of them being that like black people couldn't read music and all of black people's talent was just natural, right? The idea that like you were like, oh, you're just so naturally gifted, you're so natural, and they're like, no, we practiced, like we've rehearsed and practiced for like decades and decades to get good at this. But the idea being like the part of the racist idea is that black people just naturally have rhythm and they just naturally natural, so they don't actually have a mind, right? It's not about being smart or anything like that. And a lot of bands were forced to memorize all of their music and not use sheet music because white club owners didn't want and patrons didn't want to see black people reading sheet music, so they didn't want to think that black people could read or read music. They wanted to think it was just all sort of like whatever. Um, and so like swing music got more complicated than earlier jazz. I mean, and actually this is the same thing with ragtime. Actually, almost all these musics were in some ways about black people wanting to assert that they were intellectually smart, they were doing things on purpose, that they were like doing deliberate things. A lot of these musics were sort of framed to sort of push back against like the stereotypes of like uh, the ignorant slave who was just happy and stupid. And needed protection, because part of the part of the justification of slavery is that black people were not smart and could not govern themselves, and so you needed somebody to enslave them so that they would be taken care of, right? Because black people don't have a mind, and they're the body but not the mind, so they're not able to take care of themselves. And so a lot of black music, um, when you look at it, is about trying to prove excellence, difficulty, and smartness in different ways, as well as having a good time. But then that music is taken by white people and turned into just something that's sexual and not smart yet again. So like there's this kind of like rewriting of the black music as like dirty, sexual, and not smart, um, as a way to, it's like it's part of the appropriation process. And so ragtime was trying to be like, ragtime goes into like we're really difficult. It's ragtime. And white people can't appropriate it, and then they do. You're like, okay, well, early jazz, that's really difficult and it's smart. Then white people appropriate it anyway, and they're like, it's sex, right? And they're like, okay, well, swing, that's more difficult, really complicated arrangements. You listen like Duke Ellington, and then they turn Duke Ellington's really complicated arrangements into jungle music, and they make it like they interpret it as being dumb anyway, and then they appropriate that as well. And so then bebop is like the next phase in musical and black music history where they're like, okay, well, you can't appropriate this. This you can't appropriate. They appropriate it anyway. So like, there's a whole process of trying to make music that is not like blackface minstrelsy but can't be stolen, and also will allow black people to frame themselves as people who actually also have a mind and are smart and know how to do things. Um, but problem is you do not control your reception. You can do as much as you want to make people think that you're smart, but if they're racist and don't think you're smart, they're not going to think you're smart no matter what you do. And you can do whatever you want to make it so that people do not appropriate you, but people are going to appropriate you if they have more power than you. Like that's just kind of how that goes, That's just kind of the life of it. I never thought about minstrelsy. Oh yeah, no, I mean it's very specifically about minstrelsy because people were still doing blackface minstrelsy in the 1940s. Like the 1940s is like really the final shift, the transition away from blackface minstrelsy. Like you basically don't have it so much post World War II, although there's still a couple of instances. When I say this, when I say minstrelsy, I mean in mainstream culture. I mean like people still do blackface minstrelsy today, secretly, in sketchy Southern fraternities. But music you can't dance to. You can't dance to a lot of music, actually. Anarch W, bebop and modal jazz, of course. Yeah, Trooper, can we just like get on a Zoom call and chat music for a while and stream it? Again, I'm just saying the I need to talk to a lawyer. I haven't emailed. I had a lawyer reference recommendation, and I haven't messaged that lawyer yet. But I need to talk to a lawyer because I want to. When I talk music, I want to play musical examples, which is educational and clearly under fair use. But Twitch and YouTube don't care so much about that, and they've been like cracking down on fair use stuff. And so if I'm gonna do, I really want to do another stream in June. I want to do another music stream. And like I did last June, I did a music stream, and I want to do another one at fundraiser. But I want to make sure I have really good legal language so that when I get my copyright strikes, I can send them letters saying, hey, according to blah, 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 fair use, blah, 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 fair use. And so that maybe then they will back off. But I really want to make sure I talk to a lawyer so that when the copyright strikes happen, which they will, by the way, I will be able to have a better chance of getting them to back off, because I think that if I actually have a lawyer, then they will leave me alone. But after the first attack, but I want to make sure I can talk to a lawyer and get the legalese down first. That's what I want. Your turn, my turn, or other craziness like a person has to sell their soul to the devil. Oh, yeah, that too. Your turn, my turn. Your turn, my turn. That whole sell your soul to the devil is the same thing. Like it's your turn, my turn. Oh, your turn, my turn. This whole idea that Robert Johnson could not play the guitar at all, and then he went to the woods and he made a pact with the devil to be a good guitar player, and that is a story that like all those British guitar gods would tell all the time, and people really want to believe that Robert Johnson was a good guitar player because he sold his soul to the devil rather than because he practiced his butt off, right? So this idea that you practice and work hard to get good at your instrument, that is not what people want to hear. Racist people, you know, yeah. White culture's appropriation. I mean, there's some of it that is, well, actually, yes, yeah, I know, yeah, yes. This is Barentor says, these are things I did not learn in music theory. I can read 5 clefs. I can sing from soprano to contralto. I've sung in countless language, but this is stuff. Oh no, Mrs. Barentor, this is not stuff you would have been taught. And you may not have been taught a blues scale, but if you were taught a blues scale, I'd be super impressed. I'm going to tell you something about that. I'm going to tell you something in like 1 second because you should know. There is no white culture. It is not a thing. I can't dance any music, not well anyways. Skipping next says, some of those folks who do it in fraternities as our governors today. Yep. And some way, somehow get a pass when it comes to light. Weird, right? Lizard Eats Fly says, well, if you ever want a guest to talk about how amazing and smart, first off, stop that. I volunteer and can sometimes say smart things about music. The thing is, I would really, if I can get the legalese down, what I would really like to do is have, here's my dream. If you want my dream, this is my dream. If I could get the legalese down, what I would do is have like a monthly music stream. Like once a month, do like a music stream where we talk music, and I can get guests, right? So if I have a music stream once a month, like a special music stream, I can have guests in, and let me tell you something, people. I bet I could get Susan McClary to guest on the show. And I could get Lizard Eat Flies to talk about being a composer. We can talk compositions together. Let me put away my banjo. Just doing it. See my baby. Where was I? Yes, I was over here, and I was looking for PS Remote Play. That's fine. I'm going to reconnect over here. We're reconnecting. Here we go. And I also raised a large amount of the bail project. I did. What is a blue scale? I will explain that to you. White culture is white supremacy language. It's true. There's a lot of code about that among fascists. Oh, yeah. Because whiteness is not a real thing, right? Like it's kind of like a fictional construct. Like Italianness is a thing, and Frenchness is a thing, and Englishness is a thing, and like Swedishness is a thing. Those are things. But whiteness was sort of basically invented to make a bunch of people who were different into one thing in order to justify colonialism and enslavement and settler colonialism. Like it's, you know, I'll tell you, Ice Bunny. Tangentially, I can't believe I hadn't listened to A Love Supreme until a few months ago. A Love Supreme is amazing. Amazing. A blues scale is, I'm gonna have to mute this for you. So I'm gonna sing a blues scale. Oh, come back. I'm here. Like, come back. PS4. We're gonna do this. And then I'll mute that so I can hear it for you. So but before I finish the blues scale, I just wanted to say, Mrs. Barentor, you talking music. We're gonna see how it goes with the music today. So the thing is, Mrs. Barentor, that I have been told by numerous colleagues of mine, well, not at the school that I teach right now, There are a bunch of people who don't like music history, especially people who play instrument lessons, right? Who give instrument lessons or vocal lessons. They don't want their students being critical about the music. They just want their students to listen to the music and love it and then do what they say. And so I've had a number of people who have given me hassle about teaching music history, especially critical music history, because that's not what they want. Like I was in a break room when I was teaching at a school that is not the one that I teach at right now. And I had a call and I was like photocopying stuff. And my colleague's like, "Oh, what are you doing in class today?" I was like, "Oh, we're doing Wagner." And she was like, "Oh, Wagner's so wonderful. What are you photocopying?" I was like, "Oh, I'm photocopying his article on Judaism and music." And she says, "Why would you have them read that? If they read that, then they won't love Wagner." And I was like, "Well, it's not my job to make them love Wagner. I don't know what you think my job is. My job is to talk about what happened and to teach them history and context. And if they love Wagner, they do. If they don't, they don't. That is really none of my business." And also, he wrote this article about his compositional process. Well, first off, that's not true. Come on now. PS4. Let's not be ridiculous. My PS Play is being ridiculous right now. Yeah, so I was like, but like for her, she thought my job was just to tell them how great everybody is so that they'll love them. And I was like, well, yes, Prax, Anglo-Saxon homogenization, that's important, right? Because yes, right, because the white social construct was being created by Anglo-Saxons, um, Protestant Protestant Anglo-Saxons, very specifically. And then they would negotiate whether or not they let other people in, and they would negotiate that conditionally and under strange circumstances, and uh, people can be lost. Yeah. I usually feel like it's got more to do with power, its acquisition and maintenance. And those things, of course, are related. I did orchestra and voice lessons. Uh, yeah, it is. It's because I ignored the. It's because I ignored the banjo. Let me see. Let me do this. See if this will help. Oh, I just have got bad. Apparently, my internet's being weird right now. We're gonna see how this goes. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, come on. My PS4 is being really funky right now because it's mad. It's mad at me. It's mad at me. I think one of the ironic things, too, about the formation of whiteness is that we have lost touch with our actual heritage and traditions in a lot of ways. Well, that's part of the trade off, right? Like, that's part of the trap. They're like, hey, we'll give you whiteness, but in exchange, you have to give up everything else. Like, you can't have your previous cultures anymore if you want this special prize, which is whiteness. So you have to give up speaking German, Italian, Gaelic. You have to give up all those things in order to assimilate. It's basically whiteness is assimilation into Englishness is basically what it is, right? It's assimilation into white English Protestantness in the United States. Like that's what that was. And in order to assimilate into the power structure of white English Protestantness, you had to give up everything else. And when people didn't give up those things, they didn't live in good neighborhoods, right? Like if you looked at like turn of the century, et cetera, they were living in white ethnic ghettos, right? They were living there's just a whole lot going on in there is what I'm trying to tell you. Um, yeah. Yeah, the racists, thanks to the ones in Congress, have started going back to Anglo-Saxon. Oh gosh, really, Krellin? That's gross. That is super gross. I learned theory, sight reading, etc., but not much in the way of history aside from time frames. I was a magical singer, all state choir, all that stuff, but nothing really about the reasons behind the music or the beliefs of the composers. But also, what you probably didn't learn also was how to understand what that music meant. Or you probably, because if you did magicals, I bet you $1,000,000, Mrs. Barentor, you did not learn when you learned music theory. I bet you did not learn Renaissance music theory. This is my bet. I would bet $50 that when you learned music theory, you learned classical and romantic music theory, but not Renaissance music theory. And you were singing Renaissance music. So the music theory you learned was not related to the music that you were singing. And I bet you $50 that the way that they were talking about music theory was framed around classical music, even though that is not what you were singing. Because the worst is what I'm trying to say. Oh, come on. I keep trying to load up I keep trying to load this up for you right now, but it keeps being mad at me. This is what I'm saying. And they were different classes. But my point is that in my experience, most, yeah, in my experience, um, most music departments never teach early music theory. There are very, very few music departments that teach early music theory. Um, I can think of almost none. Music theory is almost always 1750 to 1912, and if you're lucky, you'll get 20th century music theory. If you're lucky, tacked on at the end. But for the like, there are places who'll do early. Like there are a couple places that will do it, but for the most part, it's the music theory of Beethoven is what you get. Beethoven, Brahms, Bruckner, basically. And even further racist theory skulls were too big. Isn't yeah? I mean, it's just um, so right now. This is being funky. This is being funky, everybody. Yeah, you have to get specialty music theory classes in order to get early music. Yeah, you have to get specialty music theory classes, and a lot of places don't even teach it. Even though people are singing madrigals. Yeah, look, hey PS4, why are you being ridiculous right now? My PS4 is being ridiculous. Give me a second. We did learn jazz things, like yeah. You'll learn like if you're lucky, you'll get jazz theory. Although a lot of places don't teach it either. But you can get jazz theory. Jazz theory is doable and possible. That sometimes happens depending on your school. But like most places will have you take 2 to 4 semesters of classical music theory, and maybe you'll get some 20th century. But you'll rarely get early music. You'll rarely get medieval music theory. Um, Sometimes you'll get cheaty medieval music theory that is actually a lie and not done right at all. It's a lie. Uh, but only, man, now I'm mad. A friend of mine is going to school for folk music in a special school in Sweden. Oh, I know that school. I think I know that school. I think a friend of mine went there. I only got jazz theory when I took history of jazz. Yep. So um, here's the thing. Ice Bunny asked what a blues scale was. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now because right now the PS4 is being funky, and so this is me vamping. So if you know a major scale, Ice Bunny, you might know it from the song Do a Deer. Do a deer, a female deer, ray, a drop of golden sun, me, a name I call myself, far along the way to run. So I need a pulling thread, fa, so, la, a note that follows so, tea, a drink with jam and bread, which brings us back to do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? Like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? So you know that. So that's like your major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And that's one, and we put numbers on it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do I need to bring my banjo out again? Nope, I can do it without the banjo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Do is 1, re is 2, mi is 3, fa is 4, sol is 5, la 6, ti is 7, and then do, the top do 8 is number 1 again. You couldn't tell I finished stringing the bracelets working. Oh, nice. I'm glad. My senior year, I was in 5 choirs and AP Music Theory. Ooh, nice. So there was a jazz choir along with maths. Nice. Oh, see, that's really good. Uh, that is the C scale in Italian, right? It doesn't matter if you do do re mi fa sol la ti do. The first note could be anything. It could be C, and then do is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again. But you could also start your do on G. So then G is, that's called movable do, right? So G is do, A is re, B is mi, C is fa, D is sol, E is la, F sharp is T, and then G is back to do again. So you can, if you're doing do re mi fa sol la ti, you can actually start with any note. You just have to sort of follow that pattern. That's not the important part. The important part is, right, because like one could be any note, it doesn't matter. But this scale, the major scale, do re mi fa sol la ti do. Ice Bunny, from the way you talk, you never had any good teachers ever, and that makes me very sad. That none of your teachers from kindergarten to university were good, and that makes me really sad. But the thing is that there's more than one scale. Like in modern music, classical music, traditional music theory, you probably know 2 scales. The major scale, which is the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and then the minor scale, where you flatten the 3 and like the 6. And so you know those 2 scales. But in Renaissance music, there were like 8 scales: Renaissance, medieval, mid-Ren. There's like 8 scales. There's like a bunch of different scales, and they all sort of work a little differently. But what ended up happening when we get into classical music is that we standardized things. We got rid of all those other scales. We didn't need them. We just wanted those two. We changed tuning. We did a whole bunch of things to make everything homogenized and standardized, and sort of fit everything within a equal temperament. So there's a bunch of stuff that happened with the Industrial Revolution and with the coming of classical music, and where tuning changed and scales changed and everything became homogenized and standardized so that you can modulate between keys. It's like there's a whole thing. You don't need to worry about it so much, but the point is there is a whole sort of rigid, homogenized structure that we all now operate under, and we think that it is normal and it's the only way to be. And that's our current life. Like it's a system that was made in a way that's like kind of like, it's all about like there's like industrialization involved, literally as well, because all of these changes happen with new music instrument making. Look, there's a whole thing about industrialization, homogenization, and stuff that is going to predate later. Anyway, there's a whole thing. That said, the blues scale is not a Western scale. The blues scale is a scale that comes from Africa, or it's like sort of developed. It's developed in the United States by African Americans, taking what they were doing in Africa and adapting it to the system and the circumstance that they're currently in. So, and the blues itself basically develops in like the 19 teens, turn of that century. Blues is not ancient. That's a lie, but don't worry about it. People like to tell that story. It's fine. Anyway, so there's a genre of music that's developing, and it's about sort of taking Black musical practices and trying to sort of deal with them within the context of this kind of Western musical system. And the blues uses a different scale than the Western scale that we're used to. My music class from 5th to 9th grade was copying notes from the songbook. We got nothing explained. Yeah, Ice Bunny, I'm really sad that you've never had a good teacher in your life. That makes me sad. And that like all of your teachers were bullies and incompetent and not trained for their jobs. Like I have no idea what kind of school system you went to where nobody that you ever interacted with could do their job or was trained to do so. Like it is horrifying to me that your school system had so many people that didn't have the basic qualifications for their job. It is mind boggling to me. I don't even understand how this happened. I can't understand. Like, I mean, because here's the thing. In the United States, if you go to a public school, you have to have teacher certification in what you're teaching. Like, you just can't be untrained and incompetent. Like, you might not be good at your job, but at least you had training in it. So I have no idea. Like, it is shocking to me that you're telling me that the German school system, people who have no training in their jobs can just teach and have no idea what they're doing. Like, that is just shocking to me. Like, the Green Moon. But the thing is, you may not be good at your job, but you have at least have training in that job. Like you can't be a history teacher if you've not got your teacher certification in history. Like you just can't. Like you cannot be an elementary school teacher if you don't have training in that. Unless you go to a private school. In private schools, you can do it. You don't have to have any kind of certification at all. Like you could be completely unqualified and get a job at a private school because they're not dealing with certification. But like I'm low-key scandalized, Ice Bunny, that apparently people with no certification or training can just teach in Germany, which that is just I mean, that's I just don't know what to say about that. So that is just like, wow. Anyway, so the blues scale is not 8 notes. It's not 8 notes. It's got 5 notes instead. And some of the notes don't exist in the scale. Mrs. Barrentor said, I had almost all great teachers in U.S. public schools. Yeah, me too. But I was in Fairfax County, Virginia, which is one of the richest counties in the U.S. and therefore one of the best school systems. Inequality is one of the biggest problems in U.S. schools. Yeah. In Finland, you need a bachelor's degree and TEFL certificate to teach. But do you need to specialize in what you're teaching? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you need to like have a teaching certificate in what you're teaching? Uh, I went to 3 different high schools. One of them was middle, one of them was super poor, and one of them was very, very rich. And the very rich school had all of the money. They had like computers and good books and all that. And the very poor school did not have those things and had other problems. But there were some amazing, brilliant teachers in that poor school in Oakland. I had this teacher who taught us all about South Africa. Like I had some amazing teachers uh, in that Oakland school system. They all burned out real quick because they had no funding, but the teachers were really good. I mean, I found that at least in Oakland, California, people didn't teach in Oakland schools unless they cared. They burned out like they did not tend to stay longer than a couple of years, like 5 years, I think is the average. But they were very good teachers. They just were up against chronic underfunding, like a lot of bad things. It was like I had to leave that school. It wasn't a great school. The teachers were really good, but you know, I felt like my teachers either were awesome or bullied me for being autistic, depending on how well they were able to handle autism. Not that anyone knew that at the time. Yeah, yeah. Wizard Style says teachers in Germany need to have a master's degree in their subject. What they don't need to have is motivation, though, obviously. Yeah, yeah. Although you still have to sort of be motivated to at least, I don't know, to do that job. Be right back. Keep on talking about music. I don't want to miss the game as it gets loaded. I'm trying to work on this game. It's being problematic for me right now. Um, Also being bullied for queer too. Yeah, that's terrible. There are specific dual subject degrees for teachers, so their degree is not just in that one subject, but they are qualified. Yeah, because it was just really shocking to me to sort of to hear that apparently you don't need qualifications at all. That's just very, very odd to me. Oh, hey. Okay. I think, everybody, we're in the game, which is really good. Okay. I was very lucky in my teachers' diligence and enthusiasm for their subjects throughout my schooling. Yes. Okay, so blue scale, right? Is it bad that it didn't get better? My sister-in-law had a young teacher tell her that he is trained in German, but teaches religion in elementary too. And in Denmark, most of my teachers at the Hochfachschule have a master's in the class they teach and a minor in the second class they teach. And most of the teachers I look back on are the Danish ones. Yeah, like it's just really surprising to me that apparently you just don't have to have any qualifications to teach in German. Like I find that Wizard Style's like, no, you do have to have qualifications. Like, so like, yeah. So, yeah. My high school installed a 100K synthetic 1/4 mile track, no, 100K field building that was 100 yards from the locker rooms while our textbooks were falling apart. Oh, Skabenak, yeah. But I imagine that money was probably coming from alums and donors. Yeah. So anyway, blue scale. Now I don't play on the banjo. So the blue scale is 1, 1, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, 1. Right. So it's 1, 3, 1, 3. A note that is in between the 4 and the 5, a 7 and the 1, and the 3 and the 7 are kind of flattened, and the note, that third note, doesn't actually exist in the Western scale. It's in between the 4 and the 5. And so we think of these, and the 1 and that 3 and that 7 are actually kind of, they're not just flat. They're a little off. They're not in the Western scale. So these notes are notes that don't exist in the Western scale, and they give you a bit of a yearning. They pull you to another note, and it's very difficult to play blue notes on a fretted instrument. You have to like bend the strings to get them. You can certainly do them in your voice. On a piano, it's really difficult to do on a piano. You have to kind of like smash some notes together. But so like if you had like a song like Amazing Grace, would be like, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Right, so that's the melody as written. If you wanted to add blue notes to it, right, you would go, instead of saying Amazing Grace, you'd go Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. right? So these notes that don't fit within the scale, these are blue notes. And one of the sort of the hallmarks of the blues as a genre, and then therefore, of course, rock and roll, and a lot of other genres that come past, gospel, etc., is that there are blue notes, these notes that are in between the notes of the regular Western scale that are coming from the African tradition that are then sort of being fused, like it's kind of like a fusion, to sort of create this sound that is full of like yearning and pull, so that it gives you a sense of like it's just not in the Western scale, and it's part of the Black tradition, and a lot of Black music or stuff that has been appropriated from Black music will use these blue notes. Anarchy says, it's hard to find information on teaching in Finland. I can only find stuff teaching English in Finland outside of English. But I do think you need several degrees for college and high school to teach there. I mean, yeah. Wizard Style says, honestly, if anything, studying to be a teacher in Germany is harder than most other programs. More hours, and since the students have to study 2 subjects, they have to hope their 2 sub-departments coordinate things well for them. But teaching in Germany has a reputation as a fairly easy job that pays fairly well, and is extremely hard for schools to get rid of bad teachers. Mrs. Berto, I knew about blue notes, so that counts for something, right? Bends and runs. Yes, it does. It does count for something. Because a lot of schools wouldn't even teach you that. I will note this. I'm going to note this, however. By the way, we're going to play the game, at least for an hour. One thing that you notice, so the thing is, if you understand the tradition, you will note that you don't do bends and runs on any note. You do them on the blue notes. And one of the differences between people who know the tradition and people who don't know the tradition is that the people who don't know the tradition will just do bends and runs on anything and everything. And like, that's when you'll notice, like if you watch like American Idol and you see people who are like, oh, I'm going to do lots of, like, I'm going to show them a good singer by doing all these runs, but they don't know the tradition and they do runs on the wrong notes is what I'm trying to tell you, right? They'll do runs on the wrong notes is like, and that's not great because the notes are wrong. By the way, I just want to, no, what, is it this one? No. Is it this button? No. Is it this button? No, that's the wrong button. Is it this button? Nope, that was the wrong button. Is it this button? Nope, wrong button. Thanks. Is it this button? No. This button? No. This one? No. Well, I don't remember what button I use to bring up my... It's fine. It's fine. There are game menus. They do not waste good teachers on the Hauptschule. My favorite teacher is my Hauptfachschule German teacher, was happy to have me in class. Okay, I was taught this. I was 24 years. Yeah, the tiered school system is also... Oh, Wizard Styles. When I went to Germany, Krell and I did forget how to play. It's just what happened. I'm trying to bring up the menu. We're gonna look at these logs. It's gonna be great. Recent activity. Domestic automatic mechanical routines. User Wambros attempted to log in the system. Failed final attempt. Terminal locked for 5 days. Tried to log in the system, 1 try remaining, 2 to... Okay, so we have some problems getting in. Oh, W. Ambrose. I watched The Voice, too, and you'll especially note John Legend having people pull back on the bends and runs. If you do too many or in the wrong places, they're not impactful, right? And then because they're ornaments. Do you know what I mean? They're, like if you... It's like a... Christina Aguilera. People always say that Christina Aguilera is a better singer than Britney Spears, which I will dispute, because I think that they just are singing differently, and I don't think you can really compare them. I think it's not fair to compare Britney to Christina because they're doing different things. In the same way I wouldn't compare Pink to Britney. Like, they're all doing different things, so they're just not the same. Anyway, people will say, oh, but Christina's a better singer because she does all those runs and bends, which makes her a better singer. But doing lots of runs and bends doesn't make you a better singer. It just makes you... That's just different. And also, if you've ever seen her live, she loses the melody, and not in a good way. When she does not have, like, clearly when she's in the recording studio, she has some producers saying, pull back, pull back, pull back, and then what she does is great. But when you see her live, she overdoes it in a way wherein she often loses rhythm. She's putting the runs in weird places. She is trying to show off her vocal power, but in a way that loses the song when she's live and doesn't have somebody telling her not to. So, you know, yeah. I'll bring the sound back up. That's what I'm gonna do. Your turn, my turn. Treasures having to reteach himself things. Yeah. We're voice watchers too. We get annoyed when the singers decide to embellish every single thing. Yeah, like if you too many details, you lose the plot. So that was W. Ambrose. O. Ambrose activated dinner time protocol. Meal was woolly loaf. H. Ambrose activated dinner time protocol. Meal was tripiscale salad. And O. Ambrose activated dinner time protocol. Meat was borscht roast. Corruption determined in earlier logs. Okay. Pantry list. Last Emmett check was error. Saltuda fillets, stock is spoiled, please replenish. Woolly cow steak, stock is spoiled, please replenish. Mock apple, stock is spoiled, please replenish. Borscht and beans, 13 cans remaining. Mock apple shake, 9 bottles. So it looks like people have been dead for a while. When life gives you lemons, consider it a free trial from your friends at Spacer's Choice. Or I won't. Something's up here, don't you think? Yeah. She can shred, but there's a different musicality. Yeah. You've seen my 8th grade English teacher's face when I catch us that I have a BA in the art of art history. Yeah, I mean, like, in my experience, so first off, how do I get... No, that's not the button. Is it this? No, that's gonna shoot. That's that. No, that's not it. Not the PS4 button. This one. Ha ha ha! I found it, everybody. I found it. I found out how to open the door. So I just thought I'd let you know I figured out how to do it. Just figured it out. I feel pretty special now because I figured out how to get to my menu. You've seen my 8th grade teacher's face. If I weren't, I don't think Jezza would have gotten that. It's true. Arm in the box. You know how I'm always here for talking. I could care less about the game. Hey, Mrs. Barentor, I try to like, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? The only word in my mind right now is micro. That's not the word I'm looking for. Multitask, not micro, multitask, not microtask, multitask. Thank you. Yes, thank you. It is multitask. Sometimes I cannot multi-think though. Wait, there's something I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna say this about teaching. Sometimes students do not always understand what good teaching is. Thank you, Mrs. Barentor, because sometimes I just lose the thought. Speaking of which, I need to go to the pharmacy, and I don't know when I'm gonna do that. Probably Monday. Like, I should go not Monday, but I've got a lot going on today and tomorrow, so today and tomorrow are very busy days. That is life a little bit, but it'll get better on Monday. So look, I'm gonna just say this, which is like scandalous, and people are gonna like be like, oh my gosh. Sometimes students don't actually understand what good teaching is. And I realize that is not, we want to sort of like say that like, that we don't, you know, we're in a space where people are like, well, everybody's feelings are valid. And I'm like, well, that's not always true. Sometimes your feelings are not valid. Sometimes your feelings are based on incorrect knowledge. Yes. Mackenzie's such a whiner. But I'm not currently hungry, so I'm okay. Or I'm not currently feeling the effects of badness. How am I going to get through these doors, peoples? That's not going to do it for me. Yeah, so like, I think that a lot of people think they understand what good teaching is, but sometimes they don't. And one of the best ways to sort of think about this, or sort of evidence, is there's done, Mackenzie's going to tell me all about it. Oh, Mackenzie's such a... Also, I wonder what's going on back here. Doesn't this look suspicious to you? Doesn't it look suspicious? Suspicious to me. Scabbyneck says, I hated my AP chemistry class at the time, but I really appreciate it after my freshman year, first semester weed out chemistry course. Yeah, and I think I think one of the best examples for this is one of the things that college teachers are forever resisting.
Out of sight. I had a nightmare about this sort of thing once. Crawling around on my hands and knees inside a mansion, I mean.
Think they've ever tried to use this while the fireplace was on?
Why am I getting weird, creepy sounds right now? Why is that happening? So a lot of people are experts on teaching who are not teachers. I'm going to note it. But anyway, so there's a big debate about, can I open this? Oh, I cannot open this. Well, there's a cool revolver in here that I cannot currently get access to, but we'll see if we can find our way into it anyway. We will see what we can do. Like, oh, Mr. Roseman just knew what was about to happen to all these kids in his class about to try and get engineering. Yeah. So pick up corporation service award. Let's do that. So, as a university professor, there are a number of things that go into my assessment on whether or not I'm going to get tenure. And those things include, for example, whether or not I've published, like my publication record, my service record, how many students that I am an advisor for, also my teaching, like what I teach, how often I teach, but also my teaching evals from the students. And so the students write teaching evaluations on their classes every semester. And a number of professors are like, we don't think teaching evaluations are good. We think they're bad. But teaching evaluations are easy because they're like data driven. So you're like, oh, look, there's data and we have data. But here's the thing about teaching evaluations. Because people have been studying teaching evaluations, they've learned a couple of things about them. So teaching evaluations are the way that students assess their teachers and tell you whether or not your teachers are a good teacher or not. They let you know whether teachers are good teachers or bad teachers. And so let's talk about who's a good teacher according to students. If you are white, you are a better teacher than teachers of color. If you are white, you score better on your evals from students. If you're a man, you score better on your evals than women do. If you're a woman or a person of color, you're just going to score less. Your students will not rate you as highly as if you're a white man. That's such a true fact. Also, they will rate you higher if they get a better grade. If they do not get a very good grade, they will rate you as if you're a bad teacher. Even if they got a bad grade because they didn't do the work because they were like drunk the entire time, which has happened. So if you want to be a better teacher, you just give them A's and you become a white man. And you're much more likely to get better evaluations, i.e. be a better teacher, than if you are not those things. But that doesn't mean you're actually a better teacher, right? So students will often here's the other thing. If they think you're hot. If they think you're hot, they'll give you a better rating than if they don't think you're hot. So students evaluate teachers all the time, but their criteria for evaluating those teachers are sometimes questionable, shall we say, and also not connected to the person's actual teaching ability. So I often have students talk about so-and-so's a bad teacher because X, Y, or Z, and I was like, that doesn't actually make them a bad teacher. Hold on. Vola says, does the person getting the Corpo service medal have to give cash return? Probably. This is Berto. That's great. Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. Mrs. Berto says, come to think of it, though, almost all my professors were white men with the occasional woman. Geology, mineralogy, gemology. Oh, so Mrs. Barentor, let's go back to that for a moment. So here's the next part of that. Those teaching evals are related to whether or not you get tenure. They're not like the biggest part of your tenure. Like tenure is a combination, whether or not you get tenure is a combination of your research, your teaching, and your service, and the proportions depend on what kind of school you go to. Like if you are teaching at a community college, you probably don't need any research at all. It's just all teaching and service. If you're at a research institute, it's like, they say it's 40% research, 40% teaching, 20% service. I have some questions about that. I think those percentages, I think it's like 50 to 60% research, like 20% teaching, 20% service. Like depends on the school. My school value teaching actually. But so here's the thing. teaching does count for your service, for your tenure. And if students rate women and people of color lower in teaching, and you're going to go up for tenure, and you're on the bubble or on the line, guess what? They can use those teaching evals as a reason not to give you tenure. Also, research is very important, but if you're a woman or a person of color, I'm going to tell you this right now, you do more service than white male professors. And I mean that on every level. Why? Because every time there's a diversity committee, they're going to look to the people of color and the women and be like, oh, we have a diversity committee, we need you to win this committee. So I personally do way more service than my white male colleagues. My white male colleagues are not on every single diversity committee in the entire universe, every single gender committee in the entire universe, every single sexuality committee in the entire universe. Like, they're not on, like, I am on, like, they might be on one committee and I'm on like 4 committees. And then, of course, there's advising. Women students, students of color, and queer students come to me all the time because they need advising and they don't feel safe with a number of white male students. And so I have got more advisees than most of my white male colleagues. The same thing with my women colleagues. They too have more advisees than their white male colleagues. And I have people who are not my advisees who come into my office in tears crying all the time. And I'm there for them because I don't want these students to not have somebody to talk to. So I do way more advising with students, way more student time, way more committees. And all of that time is time that I'm not writing my book or writing my articles. My white male colleagues who do not do all of that service have way more time to do research and to write. So they get 4 articles done, and the marginalized professors get 1 or 2 articles done. There are also other politics that might make that a little bit slower. So when it comes time to get tenure, the white male colleague, especially if he's married and has a wife that will take care of all the other stuff for him, has 5, 6 articles, 2 books, and really good teaching evals, and has some service. The POC and the women, the marginalized professors, have some publications, but not as much, and their teaching evals are worse. They've got really great service, but service only counts for 20%, if that. So then what happens is the women in the POC don't get tenure. And if you don't get tenure, you get fired. You're fired. That's it. You lose your job. If you don't get, you've got 6 years to get tenure. If you don't get tenure, you're fired, you're gone. And then you've spent 6 years at a job trying to get tenure, and you just got fired. And when you go in the job market to get another job, they're going to look at you and they're going to say, oh, you didn't get tenure at your last institution. Ooh, that probably means you're not really a good teacher, you're not really a good researcher. And it's going to be really hard for you to get tenure at another institution because you just got turned down from the first one. So your entire career may be over. And so when you think oh, I actually don't have that many POC or women faculty, yeah, right? Because there are complete systems that are in place that make it so that it's, and I think about my female colleagues who have kids, like, so my male colleagues have kids and they don't do a lot of the child rearing. So that does not impact their research timelines. My female colleagues who have kids, they do the bulk of the child rearing. So they've got to do research and writing and take care of the kid. So their writing slows down. They don't get as much research done because they're also taking care of a kid. They're also the primary caregiver for that child for the most part. But their male colleagues don't, right? So there was a really interesting study about parental leave and academia, so that very often if you have, when women gave birth, they would get a semester off, just a semester for that semester because they gave birth. But because they want to be equal and fair, men now also will get that semester off if their wife has a child or their spouse. So the fellow will also get that parental leave of a semester. But what they found is that men on parental leave don't do any child rearing, they just do research. So that semester they get puts them ahead of their female colleagues who during their semester are giving birth, right? So there's a situation where the parental leave for men ends up just giving them extra time to do more research, gives them time off to do research, and they don't do the child rearing. Now, we're not talking about 100%, not all men, some men do, but they have done studies, statistically speaking, that tends to be what happens. So the parental leave just gives the dude more advantage. And COVID has been terrible. So they've also done studies about this, or with COVID, with all the kids staying at home now, what has happened is that the women are the ones who are expected to do all of the teaching of their kids, the homeschooling and all the child rearing. So all of those women are doing double duty. Their careers are being wrecked. And again, if you don't get tenure, you get fired. And then, yeah. I was at New Mexico Tech, says Mrs. Barentor, and the only female professor was for English. Again, this was in the late 90s, but that makes sense. Makes sense, Mrs. Barentor. Actually helping people is more important for sure. Oh yeah, your turn, my turn. It is, but of course, there's that trade-off. If I help people, then I might lose my job and never have a career and never be able to help anyone again, right? So then you have to sort of balance. Do I want to help people right now because they're in need, or do I want to sort of pull back, spend time to myself so that I can get tenure, keep this job, and then help people in the long term? It's just really hard to say no to a student who's in your office crying. And so I didn't, that's what happened. NRW says, it sounds like those queer POC, etc. students likely do not trust their advisors or white male teachers. And that is also true. They don't trust them, so they come to talk to me, and I'm not going to turn them away. But it does mean there are impacts, right? Mrs. Barentor says, and the most diverse of my other professors was that one from New Zealand. As an 18-year-old white girl, I didn't really pay attention. And it's not good for white students not to have faculty of color. It's not good for male students not to have professors who are women, or non-binary. It's good for people to be exposed to other people. And so when you have a professoriate that is overwhelmingly one demographic only, whatever that demographic is, it's not great for education. It's not great for education. Your turn, my turn says, it's been so rough on mothers. It has been. And I recognize that. Wizard Style says, it's not like it would need to be all men anyway. Only a few get tenure, so only a few need to use their parental leave to get ahead for it to have an effect. Yeah, it's true. That is absolutely true, Wizard Styles. 100%. 100%. As Bunny says, that is about normal in Denmark. One half a year, max 1 year, but most send the kids to the daycare. 1.5 years after they give birth to return a full-time job, and my teachers at KU had no office hours for students. You have to note that in the United States, daycare is super expensive. It's super expensive. I know people for whom the father stays at home, or the mother stays at home, or the non-binary parent stays at home. They give up their careers because it is cheaper for one parent to stay at home and do full-time child rearing than it is to put them in, it is cheaper for them to give up their job and be a full-time full-time parent than it is for them to keep their job and do daycare, because daycare can cost as much as a house in the United States. Daycare, way more than rent. My colleagues who use daycare, it costs more than my rent for them to have daycare. $2,000 a month for daycare. $2,000 a month. $1,000, $1,500 a month. That's a lot of money. And if you get paid $2,000 a month, what I'm trying to tell you is that it can be so expensive. At GIA, I had a nice mix of men and women, but I don't recall POC teachers. I know I didn't have them. There is religious diversity, at least, which is good that there was religious diversity, because that's also important. It's important. Your turn, my turn says, especially in the United States, our diversity is our most interesting and complex strength. Exactly. Yeah. We have private daycare. Daycare is super expensive in the United States. Super expensive. What is this? By the personal terminal, Dr. Olivia Ambrose. Along that wilderness of glass, no swellings tell that the winds may be upon some far us happier sea. No heavings hint that winds have been on seas less hideously serene. EAP. Let's log in, shall we? And let's see what we have in here. We have logs. I remember the one time we were playing Road to Rilia, and you had a student in crisis that needed you. I respect how much passion you have for what you teach and for how much you care about the people you're teaching. Thank you, Rissa. I will note, though, that, I could very easily have not gotten tenure because I spent more time on my students in their personal crisis, because my institution has no POC counselors, mental health counselors. I think we finally have one now, but we didn't for a long time. And we have so a few POC faculty and we have some racist faculty that like I have to do I have to do a bunch of work that probably I should not be doing. And if we had more POC faculty, then maybe that job would not all fall on like the very few of us. And just like 3 years ago, we first off, we don't have many faculty of color. First off, you just need to know that as a true statement. But then we lost 9 Black faculty 2 years ago. And I think 15 total Black faculty and staff. And we don't have that many to begin with. We have so few left, which means when you only have 2 or 3 or 4 for the whole school, that means all I got to go here because it looks like I lost my connection. What that means is that basically all of the students go to like 2 or 3 faculty members. And this is a problem of the fact they're not hiring more faculty members and that the environment is not welcoming and. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things going on there that make like, I should not have to do that work by myself with 3 or 4 other people only. And if I do that work, that should count for tenure. Generally, it doesn't. Generally, what happens is that woman, faculty member, whatever, all these marginalized faculty members do all of that work, and then they get fired after 6 years is what happens. Like that tends to be the case in most spaces. Hey, Spookfuls, how you doing? We're talking about education right now. And also how expensive daycare is. Wizard Style says, also around here, we already have very visible biases when it comes to PhD students and postdocs. That's also true. There are POC, but close to no Black people. It only gets worse when looking at group leaders. And we do have people from a lot of countries here. That's true. That is 100% true. Like there's a whole problem, like pipeline problem. Scabianac says, I know people who've quit jobs to take care of kids mostly because of the cost. 100%. Mrs. Barentor says, Barentor stayed home since we had kids due to that daycare issue. Yeah, and think about this. It's so expensive. Daycare is so expensive that it is cheaper for people to leave their jobs and be a full-time stay-at-home parent. And that's a thing, right? Oops, my wife was logged on. Hello, Courier 3, how are you? Yeah, it is not fair. It's too early in the day for me to start crying, guys. I understand, right? And I can go back here. I got my connection back. It's just, and it's one of those things where like we just have to sort of know that there are these large systemic issues. What are you doing over there? Like there are large systemic issues that make it you know what I mean? Like from top to bottom. Yeah. 1.5 to 3 years, 3,950 Deutsche Kroner with lunch, and 3 to 6 years, 2,541 Deutsche Kroner, and you have to divide the numbers by 6.5. Yeah. Scarynex says, my sister's daycare before she moved shut down for a week with no backup plan for CareMind to train staff on their new iPods. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, and so here's the thing I want to say is that I've had, those are the monthly costs for daycare in Copenhagen. Oh, wow. I do have a session 0 this afternoon, so I'm gonna stop at like 3:15ish around then. iPads. Let's see, there are 5 entries. We're gonna read these. And then there are other sort of issues that compound all of this as well. But I'm gonna read these, and then I'll tell you about them. Then I'm gonna read this first. Courier says, speaking of which, anyone who has kids, I have no idea how you made it through the pandemic. You're a hero. Yeah, yes. Mrs. Barentor, anybody, Lottie Dottie, everybody who's in my chat right now, if you are a parent right now, I am going to tell you what, hero to you. I have friends. I mean, I just, wait. Hats off to you, parents. Hats off to you, because what insanity you all have been going through. So much respect. Yeah. Although, do you want to know what makes me a little bit sad? What makes me a little bit sad is that people are not saying the same thing about teachers. Instead, we're just getting people like attacking, people attack teachers all the time. That's you get that all the time. People are like, oh, teachers, they don't know. Like, there's just like a lot of attacks on teachers. And I don't even like, do you know how hard it is teaching in a pandemic? Like, it is not easy. And we are doing, and like, we've all done a lot of extra work to take our classes online and try to make them good, none of which we're being compensated for, by the way. And people are just talking smack about teachers. I'm telling you what, I'm really glad I'm not teaching this semester, and I'm not teaching next semester either. But I taught for 2 semesters in the pandemic, and let me tell you what, that was a lot of work. Lucky for me, I have been streaming on Twitch for about 4 years now. 4 or 5 years now? 4 or 5 years? 4 or 5 years, maybe? I've been streaming on Twitch for a while, so I am better equipped to do this job online than many of my colleagues, so it's not as hard, but it's emotionally very difficult. I will say that. And yeah, so we've got like a half hour, 45 minutes. And I will also say, in addition to it being difficult, right now, I just think this is really amazing. And I don't mean that in a good way, I mean this in a bad way, is that I get emails all the time from my university being like, hey, let's talk about mental health and your students, mental health and your students, and you should come to like another Zoom meeting teaching you how to basically be mental health counselors. It's like, I'm a teacher, not a mental health counselor. What are you doing here? Like, should we not be hiring more mental health counselors? But like a lot of like, are you looking out for your students' mental health? How are your students' mental health? You know, it might be really hard for your students right now. It's like, what about us? Do you not think it's hard? Like, no, zero discussion about mental health of teachers in the middle of a pandemic. None. Just all about like, and I was like, wow, okay, well, cool. So yeah, it's just I find it fascinating who is sort of thought about. Mrs. Barentor says, our kids are teenagers, so I feel more for the folks with, oh yeah, I have a friend of mine who's got a 3-year-old. Oof. Rissa says, to the parents out there, I have some friends who gave birth during this pandemic. Yeah, and that seems hard. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine. People are definitely saying the same about teachers. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot of, your turn, my turn says, teachers and staff are definitely going above and beyond. Curry says, I definitely think the same of teachers, but yeah, teachers get so much disrespect in the country, it's horrible. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of, well, now that we're online, all classes should always be online in the future. And also maybe we don't even need teachers. Like I've seen a lot of like, we don't really need teachers at all. Teachers are kind of pointless because we can just do everything online. Or teachers shouldn't get paid for teaching online. I've seen that one too. Teachers shouldn't get paid for, like, no one should have to pay for teaching for classes that are online. So teachers shouldn't get paid. We don't need teachers anymore. Everybody's teaching from home, which just goes to show we don't need teachers. There's been a lot of like, basically teachers are pointless. And I was like, thanks. Cool. I have many friends who teach K through 12 and worry about them as they start opening up for, well, that's the other thing too. Like we should all go in person immediately. We don't care about teachers' health. That's another one that I was like, oof. I should really do a what time is it Eastern time, but I was lazy. Oh no, it's fine. We'll tell you. Mrs. Burns said, we had friends who had a baby in September, another who just had a baby a few weeks ago. I can't imagine. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Me too. Yeah. Versus like we don't need teachers. Teachers shouldn't get paid nonsense infuriating. Well, but people don't think that teachers have skills fundamentally, right? People think that teachers are not qualified. They don't do anything anyone can teach. I'm sure you've heard the famous saying, those who can do, those who can't teach, right? People think that about teachers. They think that teachers are people who just can't actually do anything, who just have no skills, are not qualified. And if they really could do something, they wouldn't be teaching. Like we have an anti-intellectual and messed up relationship to teaching in the United States. Like it's, hey, I'm Mephistopheles. It's pretty out there. So personal test terminal, Dr. Olivia Ambrose. February 1st, 2324. This morning I gave birth to a healthy child. Perhaps that's a strange distinction to call her healthy, but for all I've endured to finally meet her, it matters. That she exists at all, against all odds, matters. I will call her Wilhelmina, after my late brother Wilhelm. I hope the law is kinder to her than it was to him. Ooh. I hope for many things, truthfully. That she be smart and shrewd, that she be strong, relentless, undeniable. Most of all, I hope for her a steel spine, that she does not bend when halcyon would break her. That she should be stronger than I. Ooh, what is that? What is that about? March 17th, same year. Where did that... I don't know where that BS phrase came from, Mrs. Barentor. I have no idea. It's wild to me. Mephistopheles says, I lost my job at the bank on my first day. Oh no. The customer asked me to check their balance, so I pushed them over. Mephistopheles, I love it. Courier 3 says, it's crazy how anti-education, anti-public education especially, America is. Big culture shock for me. Yeah, it's wild to me. It's wild to me. Ice Bunny says, I would love to see them stand in a class of 28, 3, and 4-year-olds. Yeah. Anarchy says, I think it comes from boxer movies, Mrs. Barentor. Like Rocky. I don't know. I feel like it's earlier than that, right? I feel like it's pretty early. But the whole thing is wild, because here's the thing. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you can teach it. And you can teach something without necessarily being able to do it. Like, I think about all of those, like, figure skating coaches who can't figure skate themselves, but they know how to coach people. Like, they know how to get people to be good at figure skating, even if they themselves can't figure skate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't even, because, Mrs. Barentor, could you put that in the Discord so I can read it? Because I would love to read that, because that seems like a thing that is right up my alley. Personal terminal, Dr. Olivia Ambrose. I must find Minnie a wet nurse. She demands to be fed throughout the day and night, and I simply cannot get a single thing done. The nurse will need to be exceptional, smart, educated, means, and you must have the best start if she's going to survive the pit of vipers that is the Byzantium elite. Then there is the matter of a governess. I can't watch the child constantly, not if I'm to do my work. How soon must I begin looking? Naturally, she'll have to be exceptional as well, and exceptional Byzantine doesn't exactly grow on trees. I'll persuade Harvey to investigate this for me. The man has little else to do. No, I wasn't done. Logs. Olivia Ambrose. Logs. Here we go. Actually, Trooper, it's not Wild, it's Shaw. It's a quote from George Bernard Shaw's Man and Superman. Interesting. Dr. Olivia Ambrose, I don't understand how anyone of ambition has time to keep a journal. I certainly don't. Yet here I am indulging myself. Minnie's influence, no doubt. Her behavior concerns me. She's clingy, emotional. At 5, she should be starting to show some personality, not crying for her mother when I leave for another stint on Gorgon. This must be the fault of Marie, her governess, as Minnie certainly didn't learn this behavior from me. I'll have to fire the woman. It's clear she's not capable of instilling in Minnie a correct understanding of how to behave. Harvey despairs of ever finding a governess who meets my preposterous standards. He and I went in circles on the issue for hours, but he came around to my thinking eventually. Why shouldn't I want what is best for my daughter? Maybe I'll fire him too. Hey, Olivia, you seem fun. Now we're at June 5th, 1337, which would make Minnie 13. Thank you, Mrs. Barentor. I'm at wit's end with Minnie. At 13, she should have already mastered basic chemistry, physics, and mathematics, but she can barely handle long division. She struggles to remember the simplest equations and formulas, no matter how many times her governess raps her knuckles. By the time I was her age, I'd already made dynamite in my grandfather's laboratory. The only thing that Minnie's making explode is my head. My father asked me why we don't just send her to boarding school, but I abhor the thought of her surrounded by those coddled idiots. More alarming still, she's begun to show an interest in romance serials and painting. She may have a strong grasp of color theory, and she shows some promise with watercolors, but surely that's the result of her education spectroscopy. Not any innate skill. What value has art anyway? She gave me a truly dreadful painting of Francis this morning. I haven't a clue what to do with it. Perhaps I'll stuff it at my desk. I'll have a good laugh over it when she's grown and finally come to her senses. Wow, this mom seems awesome. Spectroscopy. That's what I think it is. Maybe the way to read the saying is those who can do, those who just can't anymore teach. What is the relationship between dates on these journals and the current date in the game? That's a good question. I'm not certain. It's a good question. Mrs. Barentor, I like this one much better. Those who do know. Those who know do. Those who understand teach. Ooh. Oh. That's interesting. Although the thing, of course, it's like a false binary. You can do both. You know what I mean? Like, you can do both. For heaven's sakes. Like, I can't with this. I better teach somebody so they can. That also is good. I have a spectroscope on my desk. Spectroscope. This is Barantor. Can I tell you something? So, it does take a lot to teach well. You also have to want to, and you have to work on it. It's like, you know what? So, you know how there are films, and their films are biographies of people? Right? Like the film Iron Lady was about Margaret Thatcher, and the film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was about Robin Hood. That's not right. So for the longest term, I saw it, that word, because I hadn't heard it out loud. As Krellin noted, I often learn words from reading them, not hearing them. And so I saw the word, and I thought it was pronounced biopic, like a biopsy. There's like a biopsy, which was a word I had heard before. Lost my connection. We're gonna have to come back over here. So like there's like a biopsy, so you have a biopic. But as it turns out, that is not how you pronounce the word. Yes, Triffid, yes, like myopic. So I was like, oh, biopic. But as it turns out, that is not how you pronounce that word. You pronounce it biopic. But I really thought it was biopic, but I was mispronouncing it. So there's that. It's like biography plus picture, biopic. And I pronounced it wrong for so long. And I still think I pronounced, just for so long. That was it. Anyway, I learned it's biopic, but I'm at my wit's end with Minnie. At 13, oh, I read that already. I'm going back to the logs. Pardon me. Let's go back to... Oh, wait, did I finish that? Yes. Returning back to the logs. This date. April 28th, 2348. I feel like Minnie murdered them all. Lucian appeared at my manor this morning. I thought him here for me to finally wring my neck after our latest tiff. But no, it was much worse than that. He'd come to speak to Minnie. No need to guess why. She'd taken upon herself to manage the household these last few years, since neither her father nor I have the time for, frankly, the inclination. Under her watch, the staff's productivity has increased 35%, while reducing our costs an astonishing 67%. We've saved tens of thousands of bits. Harvey tipped Lucian off, I expect. Now he wants to bring her on to help manage the Gorgon facilities, which I refused over Minnie's vociferous protestations. She cried after he'd left. I only wish that I could tell her why. Oh, okay, so Minnie wanted to manage these Gorgon facilities but wasn't allowed. Drama. Let's find off what Wilhelm Ambrose has to say. Oh, this must be Wilhelmina. The search continues. Oh. I take it from these entries that Mother was severe with her editorial pen, but this is one version of her, carefully curated, and not the one that I wanted to find. Where is her unvarnished stream of consciousness? Where's her spontaneous brilliance? The search continues. My efforts will inevitably steer me to Gorgon. What then, Minnie? What then? What do you think that's about? I feel like we need to find Minnie. Or where's her mom? What has happened? Is everybody dead? Was there murder? We're gonna pick up these pocket watches. We're gonna steal all the things in this house. But we're not stealing them. We're looking at them for clues. By the way, that head right there, in case you want to know, that is a phrenology head. And phrenology is racist pseudoscience. It's what it is, because we were talking about those things earlier. Right, like it's messed up. You think we could help the reader with some capitals? Yeah, right. If you put a, thank you, your turn, my turn. If you put a capital P in that, I would have known that it was biopic and not biopic the entire time. That's all I needed. It was just like a capital P, and then I would have been fine. Ooh, I'm gonna lose. Yep. Let me reconnect. I don't know why it's being funky today. Sometimes every once in a while it gets weird. So we're doing our best, despite, what do you call them? Who's a majiggets? Whatchamacallits? Here, we're back. You have a master bedroom. I do. We're gonna find it. Studying education was fun, and working in special needs are experiences I do not want to miss. The kids taught me what a happy life can be when the fake filter of normality is gone. But for some people, that's not fake, though. I think it's always important to not go too far the other way. Like, I've been watching Twitter, and Twitter's really into the idea of, like, toxic positivity. And, like, certainly there is toxic positivity, but they're, like, framing all positivity as toxic, like any positivity is toxic, and all people who are positive as being liars. And I'm like, hey now, that's, sometimes people are not, like, not everyone who's happy is fake. Sometimes some people are happy. Some people are not. Some people are fake about it, but some people are sincere in their happiness. And not all happiness and positivity is toxic. You know, so, like, I just feel like we have to be careful not to sort of think that, like, oh, it's Minnie. Okay, I'm gonna put my gun away. We just found Wilhelmina Ambrose. I'm gonna save right now because I don't know what's gonna happen, and I'm a little nervous. And so I'm a little nervous right now about all this. And it's the same thing with normalcy, right? Anarchy says, we are taking them for safekeeping. That is exactly right. Triffid says, or hyphen. Yeah, biopic. That would work too. A good takedown is S.J. Gould's The Mismeasured Man. Ooh, nice. We call that projection. I can only be positive by faking it. Therefore, yes, Gabinak, that is true. I'm going to look out that window, Arissa, without a doubt. Like, if you are positive, you must be either faking it or just not paying attention, yeah. Oh, totally, 100%. Lauren killed this woman on accident. Good luck not doing the same. Okay, so... Oh, no, I totally get you, Triffid. 100%. 100%, I totally get that. So I am going to loot everything before I talk to her, because I don't know what's going to happen when I do talk to her. So there's just going to be a lot of looting happening right now at this moment. And before I talk to her, I'm going to eat some food because I'm apparently starving again. You know, so many people confuse projection for understanding human nature, and it's just maddening. Yeah. Even though there's a bunch of bad in this world, that doesn't mean we can't find happiness. It's not right. It's not all fake. It reminded me of this conversation I had with somebody who I was very frustrated by it. And the conversation was about her sister. So she was like, I'm so sad that my sister has been a tool of the patriarchy because my sister wears dresses and makeup, and that's just like the patriarchy forcing her to wear dresses and makeup. If she were like wearing what she really wanted, she'd be wearing pants like me. And I was like, so wearing pants is not a social construct, but wearing dresses is a social construct. So when you wear pants, it's because it's your own choice and it's what you want to do. When your sister wears a dress, it's because she's a tool of the patriarchy. That seems really convenient that the thing that you like is a free choice and not making you a tool of the patriarchy. But the thing your sister likes makes her a tool of the patriarchy. That seems weirdly convenient for you. Right? Like, that seems weirdly convenient. So, yeah. Oh, career. Yes, there was definitely some internalized misogyny going on there. Like, 100%.
So, devil are you?
Oh, I like your eyebrows. You have awesome eyebrows. I've been described as a golden retriever, so I sure you can be generally positive. Yeah. Her response was, yes, that was her response. But we worked through it. But the thing is, it's one of those things where like this idea that like nobody's really normal is like, well, actually, that's not true. Normal just means that there's a norm. Not everybody fits the norm, but some people do. And just because like I didn't grow up fitting the norm doesn't mean that other people who are in the norm are unhappy, right? You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. I think that's just the thing we have to get. There's the reason why there are norms. There are a lot of reasons why there are norms, but one of them is that for a lot of people they work. right? So to sort of project and say like everybody's miserable with the norms because I'm miserable with the norms and they're lying about it, whereas I'm being honest, is sketch, right? Because most people are not actually miserable. Some people are, but not everybody is, right? And so like I just think it's important to not project that other people are liars because they do not seem to be feeling the same thing that you're feeling, because that's kind of a crappy thing to do. That's not very nice. Um, did she happen to just stop? She did. She did. She didn't like, yeah. I know some male contra dancers who like to wear skirts. They like the swirl when they spin, just like I do. Yeah, right? Like, that's it. Something being a rare but regular occurrence means it's normal. Yes, yes. There's a spectrum of both things, I think, even normal. Absolutely, absolutely. There's this, like, we're all in a spectrum, right? And it's just in the way it's not good to assume that everyone would be happier if they were normal, whatever that means. It's also not good to assume that everybody who is normal is either stupid or faking it or lying. Like, don't, like, and like, as a person who was bullied for not being normal, I get the impulse to sort of turn around and like hit back at your bullies by saying that you're fake. Like, I'm the real one because I'm not normal and you're fake because you're normal. But that's not a good impulse. Like, one should not do that because that's not fair. I understand that people do that when they've been bullied and they've been hurt, like hurt people, but it's not good practice. It's not good. It's not good. We gotta let go, work through that. Ice Bunny says, well, when I was a substitute, I had this whole class hanging in my arms, and when a downy kid tells you that you are a doof, you want to maybe think about if you have done a stupid grown-up thing. Mm-hmm. Rothgar says, I come and I see a horrible error on the screen. Is this a real IT issue or is it a derail? It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. I'm having connection issues to not to you all. I had 0 drop frames, so my connection to you all is great, but my connection between the PS4 and the computers, a little iffy. Your Turn, My Turn says, shame is a terrible way to convince people to expect and encourage justice. Absolutely agree. Courier says, especially when we are all degrees of fake around other people. And I love that you put fake in quotation marks, right? Because I imagine myself, like, I don't tend to think of it as fake. I tend to think of it as that we have multiple sides to ourselves and we are different people with different people, but I don't think of that as fake. Like, I am not the same person around my parents who are no longer alive than I'm around, like, my best friend. I talk about sex way more with my best friend than I do my parents. I don't talk about sex with my students, right? That doesn't mean that I'm fake around my students or fake around my parents. It's just that we have different relationships, right? Like, to sort of recognize it. It's a guy, Irving Goffman, sociologist, wrote this book called The Performance of Self in Everyday Life. And he talks about how we are always performing ourselves. That doesn't make us fake. It just means that we interact in different ways in different circumstances. Which to me just seems super normal. Like, that just seems like you can be fake. I'm not saying that no one is never ever fake. I mean, one can be fake. I'm just saying that I think that people are not nearly as fake as people would like to project onto others. Should you be Alex, since the arm thought it was going to Alex? Oh, yes, I should. Yes, I should. And kids in the other institutions that are not as inclusive will hold up. Yeah, I don't fake things around people. I'm just, yeah, right. I just am different people, but but they're all me, different versions of myself, right? Like, I perform myself in different ways, but that doesn't mean. Mrs. Barntor said, I've spent 20 years in retail. Customer service face voice is way different than normal me, who's different from my other person. Exactly, 100%. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're fake, right? And you don't share the same face with your students that you share here in the foxhole. That's 100% true. My students know a different me than you all know, but neither one of those are fake. They're just different me's, because we are we have complexity about us, and that's the beauty of human beings, I think, is that we're complex and different. And I thought about that. That goes back to role-playing games. Different facets of the gem being shown at different times. Oh, that's so beautiful, Hrothgar. I love that. I love that. It's Hrothgar, that's such a beautiful metaphor. I love that so much. But it's still I'm still me. It's just that, like, when I'm in a nightclub at a disco, dancing disco, I'm in just a different performance of self than when I'm at a parent like I'm having an advising meeting with my student. If I were acting like I were in a nightclub when I'm doing an advising my student, I just don't think I'd be doing my job very well. You know what I mean? Like, but they're all me. Like, none of them are fake. They're just different me's. The kids I work with do not have this filter. The 18-year-olds have a cognitive age of 4. I imagine there's also a spectrum, Ice Bunny, of the kids you worked with as well. I imagine they weren't all the same. Courier says, my personal feelings about myself around other people are rooted in more complicated things about autism and masking. But I also recognize that's just my deal and isn't applicable to most people. Most people are just engaging in good faith with the space they're in, and all spaces have different rules. Right, yeah, that's right. And the thing is, I know what it's like to be closeted, right? And that's different. That's different. But I also think about, thank you, Rissa. The flip side, there's a flip side. Like we talk about like with masking where people are forced to be who they're not in ways that are like harmful. Like when we think about like masking or closeting, things like that. But I also think about the flip side because I always think we have to be nuanced about it and not like make blanket statements. Like the idea that like, no matter what, you should always be who you are. I was like, well, hold on a second. I know people who use that as an excuse to be jerks. You know what I mean? Who are like, I'm going to just like, this is how I talk. I just sexually harass women. That's who I am. And we're allowed to be who we want to be who we are. Why should I hold back on who I am? And who I am is to be who sexually acts as women and says racist jokes and like is gross. Like, and I was like, yeah, no, that's not appropriate in the workplace. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that there's a way in which we always have to be aware of nuance. Like that sometimes, no, I'm afraid you don't get to do those things. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like, and I can just, like, I'm just basically personally, oh, we're going to lose connection maybe. I'm just not Alex Hawthorne, dashing space captain, smuggler, and free spirit.
You certainly paint a picture, and I'm certainly intrigued.
Cool.
Do you see that glowing chunk of space rock?
Yeah?
That's Gorgon.
Okay.
My birthright, my burden, and the bane of my existence.
Oh.
I hate to drink alone, and this is my third. So join me in raising a glass to Gorgon.
Okay, well, solemn toast to Gorgon is what I'm going to do. Mrs. Bernter, presenting a respectful face in the workplace or in front of children or whatnot is not being fake, it's being correct. Yeah, and like we can talk about that because standards of behavior can be oppressive, right? But no standards of behavior can also be oppressive, right? And I think that's the thing. I always just feel like we have to have nuance. It's like, I know people who are like, you know what, I don't want there to be any kind of law enforcement. And I was like, well, the problem with that is that there were places and times when the law enforcement didn't do anything, and then there were lynch mobs that just killed marginalized people. This rounded up black people, Italians, whatever, and they just murdered them, and there was nobody to stop them. And I don't like that idea either. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like for me, it's just about recognizing that big absolutes like that very often open up spots that are not what you think they are going to be. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're like nobody should ever do X, and you're like, well, hold on. Can we maybe dial back the absolute and recognize that there might be circumstances where maybe people should be doing X, whatever X might be. Yeah, I don't know if this lady should be drinking either. The Shondoshili group, Shondoshili G, nope. The subject you teach is it rains, you take a raincoat on. The kids that physical disability or learning disability have different schools in Germany. Most of those limb squads were largely stood up and led by the local law enforcement. Sometimes they were and sometimes they weren't. The local law enforcement were often involved, but sometimes it was just the towns, because sometimes it was just the townsfolks and the local law enforcement just stood back and did nothing. Right? They're just like, doop, 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 you know? And that's just the thing, because here's the thing, the idea we don't want law enforcement, there are a bunch of people who are like, we don't want public schools. We don't want law enforcement. We don't want roads. We don't want public goods. We should get rid of all of them because they're all oppressive. And I was like, well, hold on a second. Solemn toast to, cheerful toast to Gorgon.
To Gorgon. May cosmic winds shepherd her to the nearest star.
Now, of course, a lot of times it is the law enforcement who are also clan members.
I'm Wilhelmina Ambrose. But you can keep it short and call me Minnie.
All right.
Nice to meet you too. Wow.
What?
Now, what brings you to my house, handsome?
It's tricky.
I take it you didn't come all this way for the beverages, the starry skies, or the pleasant company.
Yeah, I came here about a severed arm.
A severed arm?
Yeah.
How positively ghoulish. You know this is a private residence, not a curio shop?
This arm came with a portable phonograph that mentioned you by name.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
it's
Now,
true.
the severed limb, did it have dark hair? Rugged knuckles? Chewed fingernails? A gunslinger's calluses?
Sounds about right.
Aha! Mystery solved. I can only think of one man daring enough to jettison his extremities on my behalf.
Oh,
Lucky Montoya is my personal freelancer.
oh,
Fascinating man. Very brooding and theatrical. Always staring into space and twirling a bullet over his knuckles.
oh.
I could do that. The staring into space part.
Oh, somebody has a crush.
I'm still working on the bullet twirling thing.
Somebody has a crush.
But if something happened to him... Oh dear. I suppose that makes him my former freelancer now?
Triffid E meets. Triffid. Triffid E meets. Triffid. 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 Triffid just dropped The Tyranny of Structurelessness. It's not a book, it's an article about this topic. Essay, thank you. Although more about corporations and nonprofits than about law enforcement. Yeah, it was Triffid. I love The Tyranny of Structurelessness. It was about like communes, right? Like about feminist separatist communes is where she where she first started writing. Triffid, I love that you mentioned The Tyranny of Structurelessness. It's so good, so good. She was living in these like utopian feminist communes that were separatists, like separatist communes, and like that was like the 70s, and it's like, we don't believe in structure, and we're gonna have no hierarchy. We're just gonna be like, we're all gonna be equal, and we're gonna have no like all equal, no structure. And what she said was, she's like, so here's how that worked out in practice. There was no structure because we had no hierarchy and was all equal and utopic, except that some people had more force of personality than other people, and they just started taking over, and there was no structure in place to stop them from being abusive or from dominating, right? So the lack of checks and balances, the lack of structure meant that some people basically became tyrants, and there wasn't really anything anyone could do about it. And I think a lot about what happens when you have no structure. That, like in Virginia, when Brown v. Board of Education happened, and the federal government, the Supreme Court, said you have to integrate schools, Virginia just shut down all their public schools. They're like, no, we're not going to do it. And so there were no public schools. And what happened was that they reopened private schools for white people, but no private schools for black people. And black people, having no money, being disenfranchised, were not able to create their own schools. So there was an entire 4 or 5 years worth of black students who got zero education because there were no public schools, because they were not structurally able to create their own schools where other people were. So it's like, sometimes people are like, oh, the answer is just to get rid of all the things. And I was like, ooh, hold on. You know what I mean? Like, hold on. We have to, right? But everyone must go to school. My boss made a drink and swallow training with one of the kids because that was what he had to do. We had to learn with his disabilities. I don't think everybody has to go to school in the United States. You can be homeschooled. I should also say that kid has spastics and big epileptic attacks more than one time a day. Yeah, I knew a woman who had really bad epileptic fits whenever she drank, and then she'd also drink a lot. So what is his arm doing in my ship?
I sent Lucky on a dangerous mission to the Gorgon asteroid.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever found his remains must have wanted to inform the next of kin. What a time for his luck to run out. We were in the middle of something grand, and I really can't afford another setback.
What were you two doing?
Settling an old score.
What does that mean?
How would you like to be my new freelancer? There's been a recent vacancy, and I think you're well suited to the job.
I could get used to people offering us a job at first glance. Usually they just squint at us all suspicious-like. Or reach for a pistol.
Felix.
You're awful quick to trust a bunch of strangers that broke into your home.
I'm looking for someone rough around the edges. A gorgeous, dashing scoundrel type. Incidentally, someone good with their hands.
I don't know about all this. Mrs. Berger says, I was just scared by my doorbell ringing a million times. Food delivery guy trying the wrong door. Oh, ooh, speaking of food delivery, I'm going to be getting food soon. What am I gonna eat? I have leftover pizza. Mrs. Barentor, I've been a bit jumpy with the doorbell too. I think it's pandemicitis. Yeah, I get that. Um, um, how likely am I to wind up like your old freelancer?
The man lost an arm. What are the odds of that happening twice? Of course, Gorgon is a treacherous place, and my own family's involvement with it has been fraught. Allow me to lay out the facts.
All right.
And you can decide for yourself if you want to be my chief investigator.
Oh,
My mother,
fancy
Dr.
title.
Olivia Ambrose, worked for Spacer's Choice at the Gorgon Research Facility. She was brilliant, the top scientist in her field, until tragedy struck.
I'm not surprised. Spacer's Choice is one big accident waiting to happen.
I wish I could say otherwise.
I mean, it's just true.
One day, Spacer's Choice shut down all research and evacuated Gorgon. Everyone had to scramble or risk getting left behind.
I think
There
I want
was
breakfast.
chaos. Employees fled for their lives. Mother never made it home.
Oh,
I'm told she wasn't the only casualty that fateful day.
interesting.
Mother's name has since been dragged through the mud.
Really?
Spacer's Choice blames her for the collapse of Project Gorgon, and I just know they're lying.
Interesting. By the way, right now, as we're speaking, I'm doing a quick check to see if I can get breakfast delivered. Because if I can, I'm going to order breakfast, but I don't. Gosh dang it, this place is closed already. So I'm just not gonna have. I was like, maybe I could get like actual breakfast. That would be fun. But it looks like I cannot get actual breakfast, which I'll survive. It's not the worst. It's not the end of the world. But it just would have been cool if I could have got breakfast. You know, I would have had like French toast is what I would have gotten, because I was like, you know what I want right now? French toast. But I'm not getting French toast. I have pizza. Let's see. Mom's name dragged through the mud. Sounds like she was the corporation's patsy.
My thoughts exactly. Mother would not have allowed Project Gorgon to fail. Something happened on that asteroid, and my family took the fall for it.
Interesting. Well, what do you think happened on
I
Gorgon?
don't know. And Spacer's Choice won't say.
Oh, congratulations on the move, Courier.
Discuss anything that tarnishes their brand. Gorgon has a dark history. The project fell apart. Personnel were shuffled across the system. With Mother gone, now I'm all that's left.
Well, there must be someone who knows what happened on Gorgon.
No doubt someone is out there who could talk. Someone involved in Mother's research.
Mystery?
Someone paid for their discretion.
Hmm.
Then again, why pay for silence when you can buy it for the low cost of a bullet? That's the Spacer's Choice way.
That's true.
The asteroid may look like a glittering jewel, but I assure you the resemblance ends there. Gorgon is poisonous to the core. One might even say cursed.
Time of gifts. I'm going to finish our stream once I finish this conversation. And yes, even if your kid is spending his school day in bed in class, in Denmark, you theoretically can homeschool with public supervision, but the Danes around you would not get it. Well, I mean, maybe you just don't care what the Danes around you think. Like, if you want to home, you know what I mean? Like, you know what? I say, you don't always have to care what people around you have to think. Tell me about your mother.
I admired Mother, but we weren't close. She disapproved of everything about me, really.
Sorry.
I couldn't measure up to her example.
She did seem...
She didn't make time for us. I remember thinking that she never wanted a child, and never forgave me for being one. Naive and irresponsible as I was.
Yikes. What did she want, a fully grown lab assistant?
I don't know what would have made Mother happy. After a while, I stopped trying to find out.
Oh. Did you two ever get along?
We got close once. When I was a child, I enjoyed looking over Mother's shoulder, playing backseat chemist while she peered into a microscope. One day, she told me to leave before I broke something. Then, I got mad and broke something. Typical night in the Ambrose house.
Rissa...
Mother and Gorgon were made for each other. I had the misfortune to be stuck in the middle.
Rissa, I think
need
you're
your
right.
help, Captain. Project Gorgon killed Mother and disgraced the Ambrose name, and no one has been held accountable. Spacer's Choice buried the past like a dirty secret.
Rissa, I totally agree with you. I bet Ellie would be super happy to be here right now. You know, Are you interested in justice, revenge, or both?
Neither. It's vindication I want.
Interesting.
Whatever happened on Gorgon wasn't Mother's fault.
Interesting.
I simply need the evidence to prove it.
Hmm.
We're going to drag the truth kicking and screaming into the light. Even if it means bringing ruin and humiliation to Spacer's choice.
Or your mom.
All the evidence I need should be in Mother's journal. You can find it in her office on Gorgon, in the heart of the old research facility.
All right. The Irish composer John Field, who's cool, was said to teach his pupils from his bed with them at the piano in the adjoining room. Do you remember they give their offsprings away before the kid is 1 year old, and I don't give a but I do not have kids. First, I have some questions about this job. If it helps you get some closure up on the journal. Danger and corporate intrigue sounds like my kind of job. Don't worry, if Spacer Social Choice is hiding something, I'll get to the bottom of it. You know what? Danger and corporate intrigue, that sounds like my kind of job. Yeah, I'm into it.
I admire your enthusiasm. This manor has echoed with my own we, and I can feel you breathing new life into the walls. When you reach Gorgon, pack a weapon you trust. The corporate lockdown hasn't stopped the wilderness from squirming in through the cracks.
Okay, but what can I expect to face on Gorgon?
I've never understood why, but Gorgon is teeming with marauders.
Weird.
They almost seem drawn to sorrow and misfortune. Then there's the test subjects, those who survived anyway. Ravenous creatures left behind like so much salvage.
So, what did you tell Lucky about this job?
I told him everything I've told you. Just the facts. Maybe a couple of harmless embellishments. Why?
I'm just making sure I have what I need.
Still, you're smart to ask. Lucky spent most of our time together spinning a pistol around his index finger. Not sure he listened to any of my advice.
Well,
More bravado than talent, huh? I know the type.
Nyoka?
He had an aura of rugged individualism that was quite charming. Not that it helped him in the end. But you won't let me down, will you, Captain?
Yeah, I'll try not to since it's my life on the line, you know.
That's the spirit.
Thanks.
There's a little saloon near Gorgon's landing pad. The Sprat Shack.
Okay.
Lucky was renting a room. So if you want to follow his trail, that would be the place to start.
All right.
Sprat Shack? Hope they don't serve real sprats. There's a sprat worse place in the Groundbreaker. Tried it once, and I was sick for a week.
Maybe they're better quality
I want
sprats.
to stop in and taste the local flavor.
See, Nyoka, love you.
Just so we understand each other, money is no object.
Oh,
I'm willing to squander the family fortune if you get me what I want.
cool.
Between your payment and any salvage you happen across, you'll walk away from this rich enough to buy a mansion of your own.
Wait,
How does that sound?
wait. What's the catch? There's always a catch. What's the catch?
The catch? No one's ever done this before, and the only person who tried is a corpse. Believe me, that's enough. Here's your nav key, Captain. Safe travels.
Okay, well, you know what? Maybe you don't need to hear this from me, but I'm sorry about your mother.
Spacer's Choice should be the one apologizing, but thank you. Sincerely. A word of advice
Yes?
before you go, Captain.
Yes?
Trust no one. Mother's office is in the heart of the Gorgon facility. You're free to salvage anything that isn't nailed down. I only want what's mine.
Salvage rights and a paycheck? This is almost too good to be true.
Hey boss, what's our policy on getting to know our clients a little better?
Felix?
You think she'd appreciate some company?
You know what? Talk to her, Felix. You won't know unless you try. Go ahead.
All right. I can do this.
She's probably not gonna, but go ahead.
Here goes.
I mean, good luck.
Miss Ambrose?
I mean,
Must get awful lonesome up here all by yourself. What do you do for fun?
hey, Vulpes.
'Cause, if you're interested, I've got the full set of Terror on Monarch.
The last thing I need in my life is more corporate propaganda masquerading as entertainment.
No, Minnie, he's trying to flirt with you.
He is?
Yeah.
Oh dear. It's been a while and I'm out of practice. You seem very nice and very pretty. And I'm sure there's a wealthy heiress out there who'd be extremely lucky to run away with you. Alas, it isn't me. Are we in agreement?
Hey, no problem. I figured it was worth a shot at least.
Look at that. He asked, she said no, he accepted it, and everything is fine. See, that's how it should be. I'm just gonna take this whiskey. Nope, that's not what I meant to do. Sorry. I did not want to shoot her. Just wanted to chat.
Forgive them.
I'm gonna go too.
I'm still unpacking and everything's covered in dust.
Oh. The house has seen better days. I just want to find out.
Regrettable, I know. We used to have a staff to maintain the grounds.
I want to ask all these
Not just
questions.
auto mechanicals either. Real people doing real work.
I should. Explain the fake fish pond?
Father loved his salt tuna. He was an avid fisherman, you know. But that was long ago.
I kind of want to know what's up with your dad.
When they moved here from Byzantium, Mother told me he was heartbroken to learn there was no sport. So she bought him a pond for his sad, lonely amusement.
Oh, wow. Do you visit the rock garden much?
Not as much as I used to. Who has time to slow their thoughts and bask in tranquility? I prefer staring out the window of my drawing room, brooding on matters outside of my control.
Okay, well, what's with the Moon Man statue in your foyer?
Hideous, isn't it? I've been meaning to have that thing removed. Maybe jettisoned into the sun. Spacer's Choice agreed to double Mother's research budget if she subjected her family to product placement.
Wow.
I swear, those eyes follow me wherever I go.
So couldn't you hire on a new staff?
It's hard to find good help. And I'm not quick to trust anyone who'd work for me.
Trust issues.
Present company excluded. I can worry about upkeep once my family name is restored. Until then, this manor is a base of operations.
Yeah, Mrs. Bernto, she won an MTV
Very
award.
well. If there's anything else, you have my attention.
I would like to know about your family.
The Ambrose family comes from old Earth money.
Oh.
We were pioneers, inventors, and chimerists.
Oh.
Always at the top of our field, never lagging behind. If there's anything else you'd like to know, speak on.
You come from a talented heritage. What interests you?
If Mother and I shared anything, it was our love of chemistry.
Oh.
Chemistry is a desire to understand matter, the very foundation of our existence. What Ambrose could ignore such a tempting lure?
You know, I read your mother's terminal. Her logs were interesting.
Ah, yes. I've scanned her old logs. But I'm afraid they haven't given up anything I didn't already know or suspect. If you have any questions, you can trust me to answer them. I gain nothing by leaving you in the dark.
Yeah, well, who's Lucien? Your mother didn't seem to approve of him.
Lucien was Mother's point of contact at Spacer's Choice.
Interesting.
I'd call him high-ranking, but I don't think his job had a rank in the traditional sense.
Interesting.
He once tried to recruit me to work on Gorgon, but of course Mother wouldn't hear of it. I never forgave her for that.
Why didn't Spacer's Choice overrule her?
And risk losing one of the colony's greatest minds to Auntie Cleo? I think not.
Interesting.
No. In their estimate, I'm certain Mother was worth 10 of me. They did the math, and I came up short.
Maybe. But what did they want you to do on Gorgon?
A little bit of everything, I suppose. Manage personnel, keep an eye on budgets, see that goals and expectations were well defined. Chemistry may be my passion, but Spacer's Choice recognized my knack for administration. I would have taken the job and perhaps even enjoyed it.
But I think she wanted to keep you safe from something that was happening on Gorgon that was bad.
Did anything else in Mother's terminal glue your eyes to the screen?
Yeah.
Come on to my house.
Come on to my house, come on. Come on to my house, come on. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you everything. Fantasy Banjo. Fantasy Banjo, welcome in. You missed my banjo playing at the top of the show. I played a little bit of a banjo. How are you, Fantasy Banjo? Fantasy Banjo. Your name is Fantasy Banjo, and I also play the banjo, and so I have questions. I would like to know more about your Fantasy Banjo as we're about ready to wrap up the stream, but I cannot wrap up the stream until I know the mystery of the Fantasy Banjo. Tell me all about it, because I need to know. I need to know. You never mentioned that you enjoy painting.
Of all the intrigue and mystery surrounding my house,
I see you, Rissa.
that is what interests you.
Finish your
I
conversation.
do enjoy painting. I haven't indulged in some time, but it's a pleasant enough diversion.
Fantasy Banjo, tell us the deets. Well, what would you call your style? Surreal, expressionistic?
I honestly don't think I've been at it long enough to have a style. Painting is something I enjoy on the side. Not
Hey,
something-
Grinny, welcome in.
We Ambrose ladies have a way of ruining the things we love by committing ourselves to them.
Wow, okay. You should talk to a therapist. What is your favorite painting?
I've always been partial to Truth Emerging from the Well to Shame Mankind by Jerome.
Oh,
That painting speaks to me. It shows how nothing stays hidden for long.
huh. No, I'm totally leaving soon because I've got to prep for a session 0.
Your curiosity is charming, but
Thanks.
do remember to focus on the job at hand.
No, I got it. That's all about her terminal. I'll let you know if I find anything else.
You do that. And thanks for your attention to detail.
Oh, no worries. And that's all for now, but back to my other questions.
Yes?
About the job?
Ask anything you like, Captain. It's nice to have a competent partner for a change.
Oh. Is there anything you aren't telling me?
I've told you everything I know.
Okay.
I trust you to investigate Gorgon and draw your own conclusions.
I'll see you, Gritty.
If you can think of anything specific, all you have to do is ask.
Thank you, Fantasy Banjo. So Fantasy Banjo, tell me about your username because I will not be able to rest until I know more about it. We'll come back if we think anything
Of
else.
course, my dear Captain. I look forward to it.
Cool. You're awfully
Be sure and close
familiar.
the door on your way out.
Okay.
I feel a draft.
Sure. By the way, there's Gorgon over there. That's interesting. Do you think those are AR? Like, oh, this seems okay. We're going to this is a beautiful place. But we've ransacked it and looted it, so we're gonna just walk out. We're gonna walk out. And I just want to know, Fantasy Banjo, tell me, please. I will not be able to rest. I will not be able to have any peace in my life unless you tell me. Please tell me. Tell me about your username. I feel like this is the master bedroom. Yep. This is... What is this? I don't know what that is. Looks like a side bedroom over here, which you can't get into. We're a production team. We go Twitch videos, game streams, and also a podcast called Standard. Oh, but wait, but are you banjo players? This is what I need to know. I need to know if you're banjo players. Oh, hey, look. This must have been Minnie's room. Oh, by the way, I'm just vamping like a minor nanosecond so I can find out more about the banjo. Oh, we're gonna take all of their goods, the things they care about. We're just gonna take them all because we're looters? That's it. The last person I'm not, but I know we have guitarists and bassists. But guitars and basses are not the same as the banjo. The banjo is my joy. It's fine. You know what? I will accept it. Ooh. I will accept it, even if there's no actual banjo. But you missed my banjo playing. Oh, wait, you're right. It's true. It's a fantasy banjo. That is true. That is fair. Dearest mother and father, I've paced the halls of this gilded cage long enough. Since you won't permit me to help the family business, I'm leaving to start a business of my own. Am I too young for such ambitions? Perhaps. But that is the risk you take when you fashion a daughter in your image. Byzantium will welcome me with open arms. Won't that be a new sensation? If I ever return, it'll be to claim my rightful spot at the head of this family. Minnie. Ooh. Good. Gotta go. Thank you for being here. It's the fantasy of the banjo. Fantasy Banjo came from an RPG episode. The boys, Tony and Rob. Ooh. Now I want to know about this. Now I want to know about this game because that sounds very exciting. By the way, we're going to stop now, but I feel like we might as well just finish the room and then I'm going to go and eat food. Yeah, I am a banjo player for real. Let's look out the window. Well, here's the master bedroom. Nothing super mysterious. I feel like I'm going to take this.
Dear Wilhelmina, I hope this letter finds you well. No, it's too stilted. It sounds like I'm writing to request a loan. Dearest Wilhelmina, I regret to tell you.
Oh,
Whoa,
hey, Steph.
No, that's worse. When have I ever called her dearest? She's my daughter. This should be easy. How can a mother not know how to talk to her own daughter?
Awkward.
My love, I can no longer... For your safety, I must... Oh, hell.
Awkward.
Even if she despises me for what I what I had to do. I should still be able to say goodbye.
Ooh.
Minnie, I have to leave, and I don't intend to come back.
Ooh.
I love you. I'm so sorry.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're gonna have to go back to Minnie, and we're gonna have to tell her about that. I mean, I know that I need to leave now because I got stuff to do and I'm gonna do it, but I don't feel like we can leave the game just like that. I feel like we have to talk to her one last time and also loot things that I clearly did not loot effectively before. I mean, it would feel wrong to me to not let her know about this thing with her mom. That's all. And here he hoped to find one of his kind and talk to... Look, I'm gonna just gonna eat some salt tuna. And yeah, because I don't... Look, I just don't... I feel like I have to tell her. I think that's important. But this way, I'm just gone. Yeah, hey.
How do you do?
Tell me about the note you left in your bedroom.
Someone's been snooping around.
Yep, it's true.
Not that I mind. It reminds me why I hired you in the first place. For your keen eyes and scandalous disregard for privacy.
It's true. Those are
When
true.
I left home, I wanted Mother and Father to know the conditions of my return. I would stroll through the entrance with my head held high, or not at all. I left this place with every intention of returning once
Look,
the
we're
time
almost
was
done.
right.
Leaving. Did you, so the house was empty when you returned?
Yes, that wasn't part of the plan. Fall of Gorgon accelerated my schedule. I thought I would find success in Byzantium. Instead, I must look for redemption back where I began. Here, in these vacant halls.
Did you enjoy Byzantium?
When I arrived, I was the toast of the town. All fought for the honor of lighting my cigarettes. The attention was sublime. I opened a small firm to help young, impressionable heirs manage their family wealth. Business was good. For a while.
Well, but then what happened to your business?
Gorgon happened.
Of course, that's what I guessed.
With Mother's downfall.
Yeah.
So too fell my influence in society. I sold the business at a loss. Then I hatched a plan to restore the family name.
Interesting.
That plan, as you're now well aware, is still in motion.
That's not all I wanted to know, but I'm going to say that, even though it's not true. Thanks.
You reminded me of better times.
Sure.
I should be thanking you.
Look, I do want to... I want to give you something.
The Ambrose family.
Like, I have this thing from your mom, and I don't know if you've read it, because I have, like, the door was locked.
And chimerists.
So...
Always at the top of
I
our
wanna-
field. Never lagging behind.
Also, what happened to your dad?
If there's anything else you'd like to know, speak on.
Yes, your mother left an unfinished goodbye recording in the master bedroom.
A goodbye recording?
Yes.
I don't understand.
She must have known that she was in danger.
Law. But I think you're right.
I know.
Mother left that phonograph because she knew something awful must
Yes.
happen to her. She knew Spacer's Choice wanted her silence.
Yes, her death was no coincidence. It was murder.
Murder.
Yes.
How naive I was to assume otherwise.
Indeed.
I thought the corporation could sink no lower, yet here we are. We have to find that journal, Captain.
I know.
And when we do,
Yes.
Spacer's Choice will rue the days
Somebody's
across
watching
my
me.
family.
Indeed. I always feel that somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Whoa, I always feel that somebody's watching me. Tell me, is it just a dream? Wow. Thank you for that follow suddenly. I appreciate it muchly. Thank you, thank you. There was murder with a foul. Murder most foul. All of the murder. I just went with the murder. I'm gonna go.
Be seeing you, Captain.
So I don't know if her mother was murdered, but like, that was very dramatic and I enjoy a little bit of drama. So we're gonna go. That's it. So I'm going to walk to my spaceship so that I can log out. And on the way, I'm going to tell you where and when you can find me. I want to thank you all for being here. It has been lovely. Today is what? Saturday? You can find me tomorrow at 11 a.m. on my channel, Trooper SJP, 11 a.m. Eastern, where I will be playing Divinity Original Sin with a little red dot from 11 to 2 p.m. And then I've got a tech production meeting, which will not be streamed. I've got a session 0 today, which will not be streamed. But at 8 p.m. tomorrow at Praxagora the Smophoria, which is linked, you can find me for The Blue Rose, which is a very cool sort of romantic fantasy game where I play a bird. And then you can find me after that. I've got a couple things coming up, but you can find me next week on Thursday on this channel. Gosh, look at that. On Thursday, next Thursday on this channel, you can find me at 6 p.m. Eastern playing The Long Dark. And then Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern over at Laugh Love Lindy for Aether's Walkway, which is a Cypher System RPG. It's sort of like a new, what do you call it? Sort of like a transhumanist game. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern on my channel on Friday, you can find me for episode 12 of City of Light and Shadow, a Fate French Resistance campaign. And it's going to be a special episode where just 2 of the players will be there, and they're going to be at this party where a bunch of shenanigans happened already. And that's what we're going to do. So those are all the places you can find me. And oh, yeah. If you want to... Yeah, what? Grinny? Wait, what? What? Just what? So wait. I just missed something important. I was just using the Fantasy Banjo stream to peep you, so I figured I'd follow. So yes, please do suddenly. That would be lovely. And you're a puppy parent. So that's where you can find me. If you want, you can follow, it's great. You can find me on YouTube at TrooperSJP or on Twitter at Academic Foxhole. I have a Patreon, Academic Foxhole, which goes to support paying the cast for the RPGs that I run here. And those are like, and we have a Discord, which you should hang out on if you want to. You don't have to, because I'm not the boss of you. But if you wanted to, you can. I am going to prep for my session 0 today, and I'm going to, let me save. I'm going to save right now. Save. And I'm going to eat food, because I feel like I should have some brunch. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. So I want to thank you, everybody. You all have been excellent. Much love to you all of the joy. And I will catch you on the flip side. Take care of yourselves. And until later, everybody. Bye.